Hello, good morning. Long time no see. Thank you for your patience. I simply did not have time to sit down and film one of our monthly thrillers, and here I am. And I wish I was recording my reaction last night when I downloaded Secret of Secrets, because tell me why this book is 687 pages long. I thought like, oh, this is one that I can, just lock in, read it in 1.5 days. I don't think so. I do actually have other things to do. So this is going to be spread out over a bit of time, which is why I'm starting at 8 a.m. bright and early on a Tuesday. So I know that this isn't, do people consider Dan Brown, they're thrillers, right? I know that we've done more like mystery-based thrillers. I do plan to do another, I have 2 on my mind for like the next months, but I just have beef with this book because first of all, I've been seeing it everywhere, but also what is the title? The Secret of Secrets? Dan. So I am going into this as not a Dan Brown hater. I don't know him as a person. I don't know his political leanings, etc. But like, I just don't have any negative feelings towards Dan Brown. Are his books formulaic? Absolutely. He has gotten me out of many a reading slump. And I'm also the kind of person that if someone tells me not to do something, I will do it even harder. And I grew up in the Catholic Church, and when the Da Vinci Code was coming out in the movie and all that stuff, to have a priest directly tell the congregation, don't interact with this movie. Ooh, I was first in line. However, I will say shout out to Father Don. He actually thought that it was stupid. He was basically like, my bishop told me I had to tell you guys this, but like, great priest. Not religious anymore, but Father Don stays on my good list. We're going to dive into this. I actually don't know. I think I got not like a spoiler, but like, I think it's about a bunker, which is interesting because I feel like a lot of his books recently have been about bunkers, but whatever. As I am pulling this up of Secrets, sorry, I thought I totally overestimated my ability to speak and type at the same time. I will say that I have a bone to pick with the writers of the Inferno movie. I feel like I might have talked about this before. I know that I read Origin. I think I've read all of his books, but the one that really stuck with me was Inferno, because he did something at the end that was quite, I don't want to say daring, but it was unexpected and I think left me feeling very unsettled. So when I went to go see the movie, because I was like, wow, this is going to be really cool. How are they going to handle this? No. Completely changed the ending of the film, completely changed the like female character. Why did they do that? That was like Dan Brown's one interesting thing. So I'm gonna read this, and in case they make a movie out of it, you can come here and tell me how much they changed it, because I'm still mad at them about that. All right. Here we go. Goodreads. This is the 6th Robert Langdon book. It's called The Secret of Secrets. It came out recently. It came out a year ago. What? It came out in September? It's been around that long? Anyway, it came out September 2025. It's got 180,000 ratings. It's sitting at a 3.92. Let me read it to you. So, Robert Langdon is back in the long-awaited new Race Against Time thriller from the global best-selling author. Oh, I spoiled the city it takes place in, and I'm really excited about it. Okay, this is great. Accompanying celebrated academic Catherine Solomon to a lecture she'd been invited to give in Prague, Robert Langdon's world spirals out of control when she disappears without a trace from their hotel room. Far from home and well out of his comfort zone, Langdon must pit his wits against forces unknown to recover the woman he loves. Was Catherine Solomon in other books? I genuinely do not remember a damn thing about any of his books, but okay, I don't know if they have history, whatever. But Prague is an old and dangerous city steeped in folklore and mystery. For over 2,000 years, the tides of history have washed back and forth over it, leaving behind echoes of everything that has gone before. Little can Langdon know that he is being stalked by a specter from that dark past. He must use all of his arcane knowledge to decipher the world around him before he too is consumed by the rings of treachery and deception that have swallowed Catherine. Dan, you're a drama queen. This is amazing. This is a battlefield unlike any he has previously experienced, one on which he must fight not for his only life, but for the future of humanity itself. This is his first novel in over 8 years. Really? That's so interesting. It's been 8 years. Wow, time really does not exist. That's crazy. Okay, The Secret of Secrets. Drama. Okay. We start the book with just a page that says, fact. All artwork, artifacts, symbols, and documents in this novel are real. All experiments, technologies, and scientific results are true to life. All organizations in this novel exist. Okay, Dan. So we have a map of Prague. Love Prague. I've been to Prague all of one time, and it is my obsession. I love it. I love it so much. So this is fantastic. If there's over 100 chapters in this book, Dan, they're short. Some of these chapters are literally 4 pages long. There are 140. No, I'm sorry. There's 139 chapters and an epilogue. Are we ready? We're just going to dive into this? Welcome. I know that this isn't like the usual style, but I want to know what's going on with Dan Brown. I can't believe it's been 8 years. That's amazing. So let me just read you a bit. Let me just read you a bit of the prologue. Okay, prologue. I must have died, the woman thought. She was drifting high above the spires of the old city. Beneath her, the illuminated towers of St. Vitus Cathedral glowed on a sea of twinkling lights. With her eyes, if she still had eyes, she traced the gentle slope of Castle Hill down into the heart of the Bohemian capital, following the labyrinth of winding streets that lay shrouded in a fresh blanket of snow. Disoriented, she strained to make sense of her predicament. I'm a neuroscientist, she assured herself. I'm of sound mind. That second statement, she decided, was questionable. Oh my gosh, this character's name is Brigitte. I love that name. Okay. Dr. Brigitte Gessner is suspended over Prague. So we're going to find out what's going on with our neuroscientist. And I'll check in. I'm back in the groove. I haven't done one of these in a long time, so this feels really great. Off we go into The Secret of Secrets. Dan, you had 8 years to come up with a title, man. Come on. Rightio. Let's set the scene. First of all, there's a lot of product placement in here, I just gotta say. We're dropping the Four Seasons, Ralph Lauren, names of expensive perfumes I don't know. Anyway, here we go. I'm enjoying it so far. I'm only on chapter 2. Okay, so where we left off, Brigitte floating over the city. She is like, this goes against everything I've ever thought. I'm a neuroscientist. I know that when you die, your brain and all the chemicals that make you become a little puddle of nothingness, and there's no afterlife. And also out-of-body experiences are a result of chemicals and usually ketamine and things like that, etc. She's having a crisis, but she then comes back into her body. She remembers why she is a floating ball of nothingness, okay, because she's near death. She is apparently on her back, tightly strapped to a machine she herself created. And who is standing over her? Who has strapped her to this machine? But a monster, a creature that looked like some kind of primordial man. He'd crawled out of the earth. His face and hairless skull were coated with a thick layer of filthy clay, cracked and fractured like the surface of the moon. He is saying cryptic shit. He's basically like, I'm here to protect her, and you betrayed her, so you're gonna pay. And Brigitte is like, who? If this monster clay person, I kind of already know what it is because I just read the first word of chapter 2, so I'm spoiling it, but I would love for this to be Langdon. It's not, unfortunately. Yeah, he's basically like, you need to tell me everything that you know. He's like turning up the machine and she feels herself dying. So she spills all of her secrets about whatever her and her colleagues built under the streets of Prague. That's the amount of information we get. And then she's like, okay, I told you everything, untie me. And he's like, yeah, absolutely not. And he just like turns the machine back on and she dies. Her last words are like, wait, I can't die. I need to warn everybody. So then chapter 1, we're with Robert Langdon. Robert Langdon doing his usual shit. Luxurious. He goes swimming in the morning, just having a great day. He actually wakes up apparently every morning to morning mood. And he's like, I know it's cliche, but damn, is that a bop? Gets out of bed, says goodbye to Catherine, who apparently he has known since he was an undergrad. At Princeton, she was an assistant teacher. She's the older woman. She's 4 years older. He's always had like a little bit of a crush on her because she's brilliant and gorgeous and amazing. They always kind of had a flirtatious relationship for like decades. And then on a business trip, they connected and now they are in bed together. So that's great. She's a scientist, as we know, and she studies noetic science, which is the subject of inner knowing. So we're talking about consciousness, human potential, mind-body connection, and she's here to give a lecture. She gave it last night. It went really well. It was great. And yeah, they're trying to find like, where is the consciousness located? What is the consciousness? What creates it, etc. I think that's actually a really interesting field. So I'm very excited to continue to read this. But she calls Langdon up like on the spot. She's like, do we happen to have someone who is well versed in religious iconography and symbolism? Robert Langdon, come on up. So it was like cute. They're very flirty. They're both really brilliant. I love reading that. Okay. So yeah, he gets up and she asks him to explain what is the most common religious symbol. And he says it is the halo, because the halo is seen in many religions and it is a sign of divine enlightenment, or some might say consciousness. So that's how that ties in. Okay. Anyway, he is heading down to the hotel lobby so that he can go swimming when he notices that there are police with like German shepherds sniffing around the lobby, and the manager of the Four Seasons is like, Robert Langdon, don't worry about it, like minor inconvenience last night, you're fine, enjoy your swim. So that's weird. And as he's heading out, he thinks of what lies ahead in the day, and apparently he's like, oh yeah, Catherine's getting breakfast. She has a breakfast meeting at 8 a.m. with who but Brigitte, Dr. Brigitte Gessner, who personally invited Catherine to give this lecture. But Langdon says Gessner's invitation had been generous, and yet after meeting that woman last night following the event and finding her insufferable, Langdon now secretly hoped Catherine would oversleep and opt for breakfast with him instead. So apparently we don't like Brigitte. Damn, harsh, okay? And the reason why I said that the person in the prologue, who I wish was Robert Langdon, I hope that he snaps and is covered in clay and is evil. The reason I know it's not him is because chapter 2 opens with the golem hobbled through the snow, the hem of his long black cape dragging through the dirty slush. Also, it's winter in Prague, so it's snowing. Yeah, it's a golem, which is a creature made usually from clay. So bummer. It could still, I'm holding out. I really want Robert to snap, and maybe Brigitte betrayed Catherine and he kills Brigitte for it. I would love that. But I fear it's a golem. And a golem, I believe, is usually from Jewish folklore. Let me Google. Yes, it is an animated humanoid in Jewish folklore, which is interesting because we're talking about consciousness and how does a weird piece of clay have consciousness. But also Prague has a really rich history of their Jewish community. So I wonder if this is going to be taking place in like the Jewish quarter, which would be really cool, because go watch, you can just look it up, or you can subtle plug, you can watch my Prague vlog. The Jewish cemetery there is so cool. So I'm just excited for the imagery that we're gonna get. But yeah, so there's a golem walking around, and he's wearing massive platform boots. Why am I picturing such a diva? That's amazing. We will continue. We are 4% of the way through. I have nothing to go on. Okay, so the golem. The golem is a creature made of clay. He is just consciousness in a clay body, and he is like visible to people. Like he walks around and the tourists are like, so that's interesting. And this is right after he had his little meeting with Brigitte, and he's thinking of her again, this woman we don't know. He was always thinking of her. I'm her protector. She and I, two entangled particles, entwined forever. His sole purpose on this earth was to shelter her, and yet she knew nothing of his existence. He says that guardian angels take many forms, and apparently, yeah, she doesn't know that she is being surrounded by dark forces and that he is doing everything possible to help her, and I'm assuming it's Catherine? I don't know. And he heads back home because he can feel that he needs to release. So he heads back to his apartment, which he has painted black, and he only has black lights because apparently he needs to be ready to go at all times. So his like body clock needs to be like basically fucked up. Like he lives in a timeless place. So yeah, anyway, and then he like gets into his apartment. He's done what he needed to do for the day. He lays down on his little bed, puts some kind of like silicone ball in his mouth, and releases, which I assume is like his consciousness then goes back to wherever it needs to be, right? Then we get an interesting little flash to London, where an American professor named Dr. Finch is waiting for a call from Brigitte. And obviously that call never comes. But apparently right after Catherine's lecture, Brigitte sent him like a very concerned message, because we also learned that Catherine is publishing a book very soon. And she's been really secretive about it. Even though Robert helped her get a publishing deal, he's actually never read it. And she has like vaguely hinted, like, of course it's about the noetic sciences, it's about consciousness, and she has said that it is going to reframe the way that we think of consciousness completely. So this is going to be rather controversial, rather groundbreaking, and Brigitte in particular seems to be really freaked out by the things she has discovered about what this book will contain, okay? And so Dr. Finch is just sitting there in London like, something is not going well in Prague. We get a very long chapter of Robert walking to, or jogging to, where he can go swimming, and we get like just a tour of Prague, which is lovely because that, like, it seems like where he was walking is exactly where I've walked. I really enjoy this. It's really early in the morning, and he says, "I'm alone on the Charles Bridge. This is a life moment." And I have felt that way whenever I'm like alone in a particularly incredible place. I'm like, holy shit, this is like not real life. So Robert and I feel you, man. But anyway, he gets to his pool, starts swimming, and he's thinking about Catherine's book and Catherine's lecture. So during the lecture, she was talking about how, like, in science, we've had all of these systems that we believe to be true, and then once we learn more, we have to completely reframe them. So for example, we thought the earth was flat, and then we started to notice all of these things that made us realize the world is round, things like that, right? And she is kind of telling us that she has discovered something that will make us have to reevaluate our understanding of consciousness a ton. She's specifically talking about things that we consider paranormal. She says, "I'm sure you're familiar with quite a lot of these phenomena. They go by names like ESP, precognition, telepathy, clairvoyance, out-of-body experiences. Despite being deemed paranormal, they are in fact entirely normal. They occur every day, both in science labs with carefully controlled experiments and also in the real world. The question is not if these phenomena are real. Science has proven they are. The question is, why do so many of us remain blind to them?" So interesting. Robert finishes up his swimming and he starts walking back to the hotel. While he's crossing the Charles Bridge, he notices something really weird. This woman dressed in all black, wearing this creepy crown, like one of the halos that he had talked about the previous night. And she's carrying like this silver spear, and she smells like death. And she kind of looks like a zombie. So at first, Robert Langdon is like, oh my gosh, how fun, like costume party, drunk, walking home at the end of the night. But then he remembers that Catherine had a really horrible nightmare the night before, to the point where she woke up and he had to like coax her down for like almost an hour. She was so disturbed by this dream. We don't know the context of this dream, but once he sees that silver spear, he's like, wait a damn minute. He tries to talk to the woman. Nobody's home. She just keeps walking, okay? And he gets this sick feeling in his stomach. He's like, this is straight out of her dream. If this is happening, something else is gonna happen. So he starts running to the Four Seasons, gets on his phone. Instead of just dialing, he asks a certain Apple feature, a hey blank, to call 112 for him, the emergency services. But he has like enough time to be like, there's an emergency at the Four Seasons, send help. My name is Robert Langdon. I'm in a... And then he gets hit by a taxi, or he runs into the side of a taxi. But I think that's so funny that he was about to probably say, I'm an American. Why, Robert? The emergency services do not care about your citizenship. Anyway, so he's like, I'm Robert Langdon. I'm in a taxi. Doesn't break his stride. He runs into the Four Seasons. The police are gone, which would have been really helpful if they had stayed. And he is just like, everybody needs to get out right now. I think he says something's going to explode. Anyway, something really bad is going to happen in the Four Seasons. Everyone needs to evacuate. He pulls the fire alarm. So chaos in the Four Seasons, runs upstairs to go grab Catherine. Catherine's not in her room. So he runs to the window, opens up the balcony doors, looks down, sees the river, and he jumps. I think this is really funny. Then we start the next chapter. And so he is like in the water. It's icy. It's winter. Okay. It's winter and he is an older man. It's just not a good... This isn't good. Okay, don't try this at home. So yeah, he jumps in. It apparently is so cold that it shocked his system into near paralysis. And then he like turns to look back at the hotel that he just jumped out of. And it says, the explosion he had feared was coming, ... had not occurred. He's just like, oops. The Four Seasons Hotel is still standing, very much intact. Off we go, but the love of his life is missing. So we got to go find Catherine. Okay, wait, I'm dead. I only read a couple more pages. So he jumps into the river, right? He's freaking out. He has just pulled the alarm and called the authorities on the Four Seasons Hotel. He almost dies of hypothermia. The entire chapter is him just trying to swim to the dock, okay? He is dying in this river. He gets to the dock. The manager of the Four Seasons, who has been like really nice in the beginning, being like, oh, Mr. Langdon, don't worry, blah, blah, blah. He's pissed. He was like, was there a fire? And Robert Langdon is like, no. And the manager is like, why the fuck did you just pull the alarm then? Because it's really early morning, winter. There's 400 guests now that have probably like just crawled out of bed, standing on the snowy sidewalk, like in bathrobes. And the manager is like, what the fuck did you do? He's like, is there an actual emergency? Like, can I turn off the alarm? And Robert is sort of like, I guess I was confused. So no, there's not an emergency. The manager is just like, blah, and runs away because he has to go talk to the police who have now shown up, right? So they turn off the alarm, let the guests go back in. And he is like, don't you fucking move. The authorities are going to have to talk to you too. So he gets brought back up to his room and the security guard is like, stay. All right. So Robert has time to look at his hotel room, which he didn't have time to do because he was in a panic earlier before he jumped out the window. So he didn't notice right next to the phone is a note. The note is just like, hey, decided to walk to my meeting. You can't be the only one getting exercise today. I'll be back by 10. Save me a smoothie. Smiley face. And Langdon is like, oh, Catherine's safe. That just made me laugh. Also, when he was just walking around Prague, the book talks a lot about how Prague was kind of the center of the paranormal. It has a lot of history of being linked to like magic and, and Robert, of course, is like, wasted on me. They're like, a lot of people who come to Prague mention feeling kind of like a supernatural or like this old energy to it, and Robert's like, not me. I'm an academic. I'm not touched by that stuff. And then he sees the like zombie woman from A Nightmare and he's like, oh my God. So Robert, are you okay? What do I think is down there? What machine? What could the machine do? I'm assuming it's gonna have something to do with like moving your consciousness from a different body, but Okay, folks, we are 10% in and shit is hitting the fan for everyone. We check back in with our golem, who apparently when he did his whole release, it like gave his consciousness back to the ether, which is apparently a euphoric journey that is a non-sexual orgasm. I feel like Dan Brown is so unintentionally funny. So anyway, he every once in a while has to go like check in with the ether to recharge or whatever. And now he's back in business. He gets up, he lights 3 votive candles that are sitting in front of the framed photograph of whoever she is. What a little freak, okay? And he says, you don't know me, but I'm here to deliver you from evil. Apparently he's concerned because she's distracted. She has found love, or so she believes. He wishes he could tell her that like he is not who you think he is. So maybe it isn't Catherine. Maybe we're supposed to think it's Catherine and we're supposed to think that Robert Langdon isn't who she thinks he is. Okay. Then we zip over to New York City, specifically to the headquarters of Penguin Random House, where we meet a Jonas Falkman, who is a youthful 55-year-old, which I like. He's an editor. He has worked with Langdon before. He is the one who is working with Catherine on her book, and so far he also has not seen anything. She's been kind of dilly-dallying with the edits, with writing it. So it was just this morning that Catherine sent him the official manuscript. She's done with it, okay? He's like pitter-pattering around the office. It's really late at night. He likes to work alone, okay? So it's really late. And he's just like, do when this young kid waltzes in. And he's like, hey, hi, my name's Alex. Sorry to scare you. I'm just the data guy. I work in the basement and we had like a weird security breach. But now that I see that you're here, it's okay. It's fine. It just for some reason registered you as logging in as a unverified account, but maybe that was just a glitch. And Jonas is like, I have not turned on my computer. That is not me. I am not logged in. So Alex is like, oh, okay. Well, you know, security breaches happen. It's no big deal. They probably were just like snooping around. We will get on that right now. And Jonas is like, can you see what they were looking at? And Alex is like, actually, yeah. And whoever it is, they're really good because we have like military level security in like a bunch of different levels of secure files, right? And he was like, yeah, they got into the most secure file. And Jonas is like, I literally only had one person send me a super secure file, and it's Catherine. So what the fuck? They eventually work on it. Alex is like, don't worry, like just log in, we'll find it, blah, 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 blah. The file is erased. Jonas starts having a panic attack. Alex is like, don't worry, we have offsite servers that backs up like every couple of seconds. We have the file on the offsite thing. So let me just log into that. So he like logs in and the file is gone from there too. The file is gone from anywhere it could possibly be. That's not good. And also that makes it incredibly difficult to track the hacker. They have just like erased everything. Penguin Random House is in trouble. Back in Prague with Robert Langdon, he is taking a shower because he just almost died of hypothermia, right? And he's thinking about, we finally get the vision, the nightmare that Catherine described to him, which apparently was terrifying. There was a dark figure standing at the foot of our bed, dressed in black, spiked halo, silver sphere, smelled like death. The woman we saw on the bridge, right? Catherine says, I shouted for you, but you weren't there. And the woman hissed at me, Robert cannot save you. You are going to die. And then there was a deafening noise and a flash, and the hotel exploded in a cloud of fire. I could feel myself burning. So that was the nightmare that she had shared with him and prompted him to pull the fire alarm in the Four Seasons, right? So he hears somebody come in. He's like, oh, Catherine, thank God. Bolts out of the shower. Not Catherine. Old Czech man named Janacek, I think is how you pronounce it. He is a captain, very high ranking in the like National Intelligence Service, okay? The Czech CIA, FBI, if you will. He's got some questions. Mainly, why the fuck did you pull the fire alarm in a 5-star hotel? Robert is like, I'm sorry, I was confused. I thought there would be an explosion. And Janacek is like, number one, why? And number two, what would cause an explosion? And Langdon's like, you know, the reasons are complicated, but I had a feeling there was a bomb, you know? And speaking of feelings, we get a flashback to Catherine's lecture. And again, remember, she's talking about clairvoyance, telepathy, etc. And she's talking about various examples in history of like premonition, specifically in dreams, okay? Apparently Abraham Lincoln dreamt of his assassination 3 days prior. There was an entire book written by Morgan Robertson in 1898, where he had a vivid nightmare about a massive cruise ship that sank called the Titan. And he like listed really specific things. And 14 years later, the Titanic went down in the exact same way. Like things like that. Okay. She's talking about all of these things. I bookmarked that page because I totally want to do a deep dive into all of those. That sounds really amazing. Anyway, she pulls up a experiment that has been tested in apparently quite a few different labs in which they are showing their test subjects different images. So one that is horrifying, violent. There's one that is like really tranquil and peaceful. And then there's one that is like really sexual. Okay. And they can see which parts of the brain lights up with each thing, right? Which is normal. Great, your brain is working. That's amazing. However, she said, let's zoom in on the timeline. And apparently the brain activity spikes before the image is shown. 400 milliseconds before the image is displayed. But stranger still, not only is it before the image is displayed, but it is before the computer chooses what image it will show. So there's the idea of like creating reality, and we reference Buddha, all of these different people who have talked about what we think is what happens, right? So she's pretty convinced that premonition is a real thing. Perhaps it can be practiced and cultivated, etc. So Langdon is just like unnerved by her dream and then him seeing all of this stuff, right? So back in the hotel room, Janacek is questioning him. And so he's asking Langdon, like, okay, so your bomb, was it like a timed bomb? And Langdon is like, it wasn't my bomb. Write that down. It was not my bomb. And also, why did you jump out of the balcony? And he's like, I don't know, man. I was kind of freaked out, thought the building was going to explode. And then the church bells started to ring. So I jumped. There was like a little voice in his head that was like, there's no other choice. You must jump. And so he did. Okay. And he's not telling Janacek about the nightmare. He's just like, I don't know, man, like weird feelings. I was confused, jet lag, whatever. And Janacek is like, that's really interesting that you mentioned that, because this morning my team of men defused a bomb that was set to go off at 7 a.m., which is exactly when Langdon jumped out of the balcony. So Janacek's like, I would really like to know where your information is from, man, because what a weird thing that you just like had a feeling about. Okay. At that moment, a representative, a agent Harris, comes in. He has been sent by the US Embassy to like make sure that Langdon's rights are being respected and like basically acting as kind of like his legal representation, right? And Harris is like, listen, the particular route that you took this morning, like the Charles Bridge and then walking up to Four Seasons, all of that, probably the most photographed and recorded part of Prague in terms of like CCTV security footage. He's like, it would behoove you to speak only the truth. Janacek already has all the information. He's just checking if you're saying anything weird. So don't say anything weird. This is your chance. Like, just tell us what's going on. And Robert is like, well, let me tell you about this dream. And also our Dr. Finch, who I kind of thought we weren't going to ever see again, who's in London, who has been waiting for Brigitte to call. Apparently he's extra concerned because not only has Brigitte now been missing for like 6 hours, but apparently Catherine 30 minutes ago did something. What is the exact wording? Dr. Solomon had done something so unexpected it could not be ignored. And he apparently contacts his supervisor or whatever, and he transmitted 2 words into the field: execute now. The order had been confirmed by his contacts standing by in Prague and New York City. We don't know what Catherine did. We know that she's going to go meet Brigitte and Brigitte's not there. And she's meeting Brigitte at her lab. And we know Brigitte is not there, or at least Brigitte's consciousness isn't there. Maybe a dead body. Janacek is not having a good time. He has already come to all of his conclusions. He knows who he wants to arrest, etc. So he's just like getting impatient with Langdon because Langdon is very much like... But essentially why Janacek is thinking that Langdon and also Catherine Solomon, why they're guilty is because he did his research. He knows that Catherine's book, as she said in her lecture last night, is revolving around clairvoyance, premonitions, precognition, etc. He's like, this sure sounds like a perfect setup, right? The author of a book about clairvoyance has this prophetic dream and the next day it comes true. He is like, you guys obviously set up the bomb. And apparently the bomb was really small and like in the basement where it probably wouldn't have done a whole lot of damage. And he's like, and nobody got hurt because you came and heroically stopped the bomb from going off. So this just all sounds like a publicity stunt to me. Okay, so they're gonna go pick up Catherine. They head to Brigitte's lab. Also, we randomly get some background. Maybe this is important. The representative from the embassy is Michael Harris, is a 6'2" black man who speaks fluent Czech. Apparently, he grew up in a wealthy Philly household and he was raised primarily by his nanny who spoke Czech. And so by the time he was 15, he was bilingual. Okay, so that's great. Got him an easy job at the embassy. He's been working there ever since. Also, he has been doing some like shady stuff for the ambassador. We don't know what that is, but he says that it is off the books. And while the work is technically legal, it was on the edges and decidedly distasteful. And Harris thinks, gee, I hope this doesn't come back to haunt me. So we don't know what's going on. The American ambassador up to something. Okay, back to Jonas, who is freaking out because he just had his manuscript stolen. But lucky for him, our man is old school. A youthful 55 he may be, but he likes to do things by hand. He printed out the manuscript. First thing he did when he got it, printed it out, 400 something pages, manuscript time, okay? And he had it in a locked drawer. He pulls it out and he's about to copy it again, like basically feed it through a copier, right? And he's like, No. This system has already been hacked once. Why don't I go to FedEx? He's like, FedEx is anonymous and secure. Why don't I try it there? Because clearly a FedEx system is going to be safer than your military grade system at Penguin Random House, right? So he puts it in his backpack and heads out. It is 2 a.m. Midtown, New York City. He's walking to a 24-hour FedEx on 7th Avenue. Not a care in the fucking world because he's a man. He doesn't notice that a black van is following him. And so seconds later, he gets a punch to the side of his head and is pulled into the trunk of a van, tied up and blindfolded. And he is like, I have read enough books to know that this isn't good. Okay. Meanwhile, Alex, our young little data guy, is amazed at how good these guys are. He's like, wow, they wiped out everything. That's pretty impressive. He thinks maybe knowing more about the book would help him track down what's going on. He's also out for revenge. He would really like to hack them back. So he wants to know as much as possible, tries to call up to Jonas. Jonas is gone. Calls down to the security desk and the security guard is like, yeah, he just walked out. And Alex is like, does he not think that we have an emergency here? What is this man thinking? So he decides to go against protocol and call Catherine. He's going to call the author. Rings and rings and rings. Nobody picks up. He leaves a message. He's like, okay, what about? And he knows because for some reason he pays attention. I don't know how he would know this, but he's like, oh, but she's friends with Robert Langdon. Let me call Robert. Robert's phone is at the bottom of the river because he jumped into it an hour ago. So also nothing. Nobody's picking up. Alex hung up, feeling suddenly very alone. Also, this was like a teeny tiny scene, but remember when Langdon was like, yeah, we met that woman and she was like insufferable or whatever. So apparently Brigitte had drinks or something with them. And instead of even talking about the lecture or like congratulating Catherine, blah, 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 she only talked about herself and her research and her new lab and how like amazing her lab is. Or something like that. So that was the insufferable part. We continue. What am I thinking? Now I'm thinking instead of consciousness, what if it's about seeing the future? The secret of secrets. Why would you name it that? I just feel like there's gotta be a clue. The secret of secrets. I'm coming up empty, guys. Yep. Okay, we are 100 pages in. We're at 17%, and this has just gotten funny. It's also just funny because I can only picture Robert Langdon as Tom Hanks, so I can like hear his voice in my head reading all of these lines, which I think is really funny. Anyway, okay, what's up with Finch? This Dr. Finch guy who just like texted something like execute now, blah, 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 and he's got all these contacts. Let's learn about it. So, and remember, according to Dan Brown, all of these organizations in the book are real. Okay. Finch is a high-ranking member in the global organization known as Q, not QAnon, just Q, named after the James Bond Q. All right. Like the fictional namesake, the real world Q also developed advanced technologies in service to a higher power. The entity was founded in 1999, and apparently its actions regularly shifted the course of global events. Okay. So he has been in this for a while. And about 3 years ago, he was tapped to head a confidential assignment for Q and was basically told that like no rules apply for this job, like legality, etc. Just we need this done, whatever it is. Okay, so that's his deal. He's working with a network. All right. We also get a hilarious scene of the Golem going to this bar called the Black Angel because apparently it has really good service. Like it offers free Wi-Fi if you go in and get a pint to drink. And yeah, the Golem needs to Google something. And so he goes down there, he like gets online, gets his information, and whatever he's looking for, he finds what he needs. And he quickly clears the browser's search history and reboots the computer. When he ascended from the bar and stepped back out into the square, he felt alive with the prospect of a revenge so bold that its shockwaves would be felt thousands of miles from Prague by all those responsible. Yeah, he's just on a killing spree. He wants to kill everybody that is involved in Brigitte's whole thing. And apparently she gave up everything. She also said that this like vault or whatever the hell is like beneath the city, you can only get in with like a password and a key, or like you need to know where it is and you need a key. And when he was torturing her, she gave him all of those things. But unfortunately, he realized that even though he had the key, there was like one more thing. I'm assuming maybe it's like a bio thing, like her thumbprint or her eye scan or DNA or something like that. But he's like, okay, I guess I gotta go back to the lab and get this one thing. So he heads to Gessner's lab. But who else is at Gessner's lab but Janacek, Lieutenant Pavel, who we will get to know, and Langdon. They cannot get through the front door. Nobody is answering, even though they're like flashing their badges, whatever. So Janacek is just like, Pavel, do your thing. And he just like takes out a gun and is like, pop, 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 pop to the glass front door. Eventually we break through. Langdon is like, what is going on? Like, these guys don't give a shit. They make it down to the lab. The lab is unlocked. So they're assuming that means that Brigitte is in there, hopefully with Catherine. They're walking in. They're like, Dr. Gessner, are you here? Why isn't anybody here? So that's suspicious and weird. Janacek is like, I'm gonna go look deeper into the lab. You guys stay here, because he doesn't want Catherine and Robert to communicate at all, so they can like corroborate their stories, right? So he's keeping them separate. So he goes off, leaves Pavel with Langdon. He comes out a little later, and apparently like the deepest part of the lab that they need to get into is locked. So he's like, I've called the extraction team or whatever, like somebody's coming. I'm gonna go out for a smoke. And Pavel is like, yes, he does smoke all the time, but also he's probably making a private phone call, which apparently he does a lot. So I'm assuming that Janacek is up to something funky as well. And Pavel has like a whole tragic backstory about like a father's death, an alcoholic abusive mother, blah, 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 blah. And apparently Janacek saved him and like recruited him. And so he is like 100% loyal to this man. So no matter what he's up to, Pavel's got his back. Okay. Langdon in the meantime is looking around, and he's pissed off. Not for any reason you would think, but apparently the lab is like really fancy, but not just with scientific stuff, but with artwork. He sees a sculpture by Paul Evans and he's like, oh my God, that's amazing. But also, how dare she buy expensive art and then put it, number one, somewhere where nobody else can see it, and number two, in bad lighting. And she didn't even hang it correctly. And then he's like, oh, she didn't hang it correctly. He looks and he's like, I sense a clue. So while Pavel is distracted by his, what was it called? Dream world. Pavel has AI psychosis and he is addicted to his AI dating app where he is dating a woman. So he's like answering his texts, and then he looks up and Langdon is gone. Why is Langdon gone? Because he realized that the sculpture was actually like a lever and he could slide a door open. He gets in. He's in a private elevator, and in front of him is a keyboard. And Gessner had kind of bragged about how like ingenious her password was for getting into the lab. So now it's up to Langdon to crack it. Okay. We also had one other scene that made me literally laugh out loud. Hold on. We meet Dana. We are at the embassy, the American embassy in Prague. We have Dana. Dana is a local. She's from Prague. Learned her English by spending a few decades modeling in London. All right. She does techie things. She came home from her modeling gig, studied computer science. Now she's like a tech whiz. Okay. She does a lot of security stuff. She walks into her office and then a deep voice behind her says, "Nice view." She turned and swooned, as she always did when she saw the striking legal attaché, Michael Harris. And apparently they're having a bit of a forbidden office romance because embassy personnel are not supposed to date. And apparently he treats her very politely inside the office, which is also how he treated her outside the office and in his bedroom. They're dating, okay? Go Dana. But Michael's not here to flirt. He has a request. He's basically like, listen, I can't give you any information, but can you do me a favor? Can you look through all of our CCTV footage and tell me where this woman's start and end point is? And he shows her the footage of that creepy woman crossing the bridge, the one with the halo. He's like, I want to know where she came from. And Dana is like, yeah, okay, that's weird. I got it. And she's a little put off by this because apparently he's been acting a little weird for the past couple weeks, and she immediately assumes it's another woman. So for him to be asking her for this favor of like tracking a woman, she's very much like, I'll do it, but I'm not happy about it. So there's that little nugget. What do I think is going on? Well, I think the ambassador is maybe involved, but maybe the ambassador is the good girl. What is the machine? What does the machine do? Oh, that's what I was supposed to tell you. The machine is apparently like a technology called the threshold. The whole thing underneath Prague, they call it the threshold. And that is actually what Prague means, threshold. You can think of it as maybe connecting the East and the West of Europe, which it was, but also it is like the threshold of kind of the supernatural world and the world as we know it kind of thing. So what could that B. We're at page 108. I'm just along for the ride at this point. I'm sorry, guys. I feel like Janacek is going to end up being a good guy, but I don't trust Pavel in his use of AI. So, all right. Okay, we are 20% of the way through. So we're with Jonas in the back of a van. He's got a bag over his head. They've been driving for like 10, 20 minutes. Eventually the car stops. They pull the bag off of him. He's looking at two military dudes. This is an avid reader, okay? So he tries to like think of all of the suspense novels that he's read, and he's like, okay, what do? I try to like not be scared. The guy gets out his phone, and so Jonas is like, oh, are we gonna record a TikTok? And the dude is like, come on. Come on. They also have some weird AI lie detector thing where it analyzes his eyes and body move. Whatever. They want to know if he has another copy of the manuscript. And he tries to say yes. He does. He's like, okay, my favorite detective, he knows a way to get around lie detectors. And so he's like, hey, I lower my shoulders, I relax my abdomen, I put my fingers together, I breathe. Didn't work. The military guy's like, that's a lie. Okay. So he's in trouble. Alex also is still working on cracking this code and trying to find out who did this. When he gets a little deep into the data, I don't know what he's looking up. Okay. Because he's trying to find more contacts, like through either for Catherine or for Langdon or for Jonas, etc. And what he finds through some methods of dubious legality, a disturbing image now sat on his screen. Alex tried to conjure any benign explanation for what he was looking at, but his mind kept returning to the only logical conclusion. Whoever wants to kill this book has killed the author. To be fair, it says whoever wants to kill this Penguin Random House book has killed a Penguin Random House author. So it might be an image of Langdon dead. I'm just saying, okay? A, not the. I need to be specific in my words. Then we get more information about why Gessner was so insufferable, why Langdon hates her guts. And to be fair, yeah, she was really rude. She basically got drinks with them after the lecture and was like, oh, that was so fun to listen to, even though it was all fake. Like, I'm a real scientist and all of your stuff is bullshit. And I only asked you to come because like I needed another woman scientist and I figured you'd be desperate for a chance. Whatever, okay? Bitchy stuff. She also orders them drinks, like doesn't allow them to order their own drinks. And she gives Catherine like a really strong drink. And Catherine like politely is drinking it. And Gessner is hounding her for her manuscript because apparently she, in some interview, referenced that an article that Gessner wrote kind of inspired a section or two of Catherine's book. And so Brigitte is like, I deserve to read your manuscript then. Like if I inspired it, I need to make sure you aren't like misrepresenting my data and like all this stuff, whatever. And Catherine's like, I don't think so. And I also don't have one. My manuscript is with my editor. So, Brigitte seems kind of pissed off about this, but she's like, okay, well, I want you to come to my lab, see some real science going on. But of course you need to sign an NDA before that. So I actually have one on hand. How funny. And she slides over this contract. And luckily Langdon is there and Langdon is not drunk because Catherine is definitely like slurring her words. She is inebriated. And Langdon is like, no, my girlfriend is not going to be signing a legal document in this state. So try again, Brigitte. And she's kind of miffed about this and they end up quickly leaving after that. But not before she starts bragging about her password. And she really hates what is called parapsychology or like psychic stuff. And it's often referred to as like PSI, pronounced psi. And so she's like, yeah, I always have a joke that like, I'm not a neuroscientist, like PSI-entist. She's like, that's my joke. I love making jokes about anything that has psi. I always spell it PSI because haha, fucking hate what you do. Okay, Brigitte's a pill. Rest in peace, girl. And she's like, yeah, it was so funny. I decided I even used it in my password as such a joke. And then she looks at Professor Langdon and she's like, oh, you like puzzles, right? Like, I think you'd actually be really impressed by my encryption. She says, I describe my ingenious little code as an Arabic tribute to an ancient Greek with a little Latin twist. And Langdon is just like, okay. But Catherine's drunk and she's like, he's so good at codes. He could totally break your password. I bet you. And Gessner's like, oh, I take that bet, honey. The odds of him getting it right are 1 in 3.5 trillion. So Langdon is like, oh, so it's a 7-character alphanumeric code. And Gessner is like, And Catherine's like, I told you he's so good. So apparently Gessner's like, okay, no more hints for you. And they depart. Okay, so because Langdon does love a puzzle, he's kind of been chewing on this for a while. So he's like halfway there. By the time he gets into this secret room with the keyboard, he's already kind of like cooked up what it might be. So it takes him pretty much no time to type in what he thinks it is. I'm not going to go into it, guys. It's like pi, the number, and then the spelling, and then the book. Just believe me that he breaks the code. Okay, he types it in, nothing happens. Then after a beat, the elevator doors slide open. He gets in thinking, wait, I'm claustrophobic. The doors close and there's no buttons. So he just descends. Then we get a chapter from the Golem's POV, and he's thinking about Catherine Solomon's lecture. And he was really impressed with the lecture, the Golem. He really liked it. He was sitting in the back. Everything that she was talking about, he is like, yes, girl, like I am living proof. Amen. But I'm still not sure if Catherine is officially the her. I'm thinking, what if it's Dana? Why not? I don't know. I just don't want it to be that obvious that the Golem is obsessed with Catherine. And one thing that she brings up that is particularly interesting to her and the consciousness is the idea of sudden savant syndrome, where you either wake up from a coma or you have some kind of head trauma, whatever. When you come back to yourself, you have a new skill. Like you can be fluent in Spanish, or you can play the violin. And she names some interesting cases. And again, I bookmarked all of these because I'm like, I'm so going down all of these rabbit holes. Apparently there was someone named Derek Amato, who was a middle-aged man who dove into a pool, hit his head, and woke up a musical genius and virtuoso pianist. Michael Thomas Boatwright woke up speaking fluent Swedish, and he had no recollection of his previous life. Instead, he only recalled his life as a Swede named Johan Ek. She lists a lot of them, but like very interesting. Anyway, we can't figure it out. We can't explain it, but it doesn't mean it's not happening. And the Golem is like, oh girl, I understand. He understood why cosmic signals got crossed. And clearly, so did Catherine. But his thoughts are interrupted because he arrives at Gessner's lab. He's in a taxi. He's like, nobody's supposed to be here. He sees the police car. He's like, what the fuck is going on? And then he sees someone standing outside in a police uniform, and he's like, okay, that needs to be dealt with. So we switch POVs. It's Janacek. Janacek is the one standing outside. He was on the phone, okay? And he's just feeling good. He's having a great time. Turns out this is low-key a revenge plot because he has not climbed the ranks as quickly as he should have in the national security, national intelligence, whatever the hell he's in the Uzi force is what it's called. Because when he was like a young cop, he apparently had an issue with like a group of drunk American students, and he put them in jail for a night to like teach them a lesson. But one of them was the son of a senator, and he complained. And ever since then, Janacek has not gotten like the promotions that he believes he deserves. So the fact that in this case, it's a high profile case and he gets to take down some Americans, he is like, yes, this is what I live for. Okay. Then he gets a call from the American, the ambassador, who we know, because of Michael Harris, is doing some weird shady shit, also of dubious legality. Janacek picks up the phone. He's like, ambassador, you can't say anything that's gonna change my mind, blah, 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 blah. And the ambassador is like, you are dealing with some really sensitive shit. I don't think you understand. And he's like, yeah, whatever. Americans always say that, blah, blah, blah. And then she screams at him in Czech. And then she spoke 6 words, and 6 words only. Janacek felt he'd been hit by a truck. In that instant, everything changed. 25%. We made it, guys. You know what? I think I'm right. I don't think it was Catherine that he's talking about, but I'll get to it in a second, okay? Where do we begin? All right. Langdon gets down to wherever the elevator lets him out. Gorgeous. The walls are really old stone, but the floor is like really classy, like herringbone, hardwood, whatever. Very bougie down there, okay? There seems to be 5 doors. We've got one that is clearly Brigitte's office. We've got another one that she had mentioned she has an intern who is Russian, and he's like, oh, that must be hers because there's a water bottle with a sticker that has like Russian on it. Whatever. Couple other rooms. There's one room with like an MRI and a CT scan thing going on. He is led to another room that has virtual reality written on it, and so he's like, oh, perfect. Maybe they're just not answering their phones and our calls because they're deep in some virtual reality thing. Wrong. Nobody's there. He goes into another room that is called tech development, and he is like, Kids these days, they're so lazy. Just say tech development. No reason to make a new word. But anyway, this room's really weird. It's much more like a laboratory looking room. Lots of things with pipes and dials and crazy stuff. When he notices this one machine, and it's like this tube connected to a smaller tube, and they're both filled with kind of vapor or something like that. And the bigger one reminds him of a sleeping pod or a coffin, he says, shuddering. As he neared the pod, he could see its transparent shell was heavily fogged with condensation from whatever was happening inside. The beeping continued. He carefully approached, arriving over the pod, and peered down through the glass lid. Lying motionless inside the pod, shrouded in thick, swirling mist, was the hazy outline of a human form. So he thinks it's Catherine. So he starts freaking the fuck out, okay? A blonde woman runs in. She's got like a fire extinguisher over her head ready to strike. She's like, how did you get in here? And he's like, Gessner gave me the password and blah, blah, blah. I'm a friend of Catherine. Anyway, she's like, okay, fine. You're allowed to be in here. Sorry, I freaked out. Also, why are you screaming? And he's like, because my girlfriend is in this creepy ass glass coffin thing you've got going on. And that's when our girl Sasha is her name. She is the Russian lab intern. Sasha is like, oh fuck, no one's supposed to use that. That machine is not ready yet. It is and what do we call it? EPR, an emergency preservation and resuscitation machine. Essentially, if there is no oxygen going to your brain, if you are resuscitated, you will have brain damage, right? And so she has created, Brigitte has created this machine that is kind of a suspended animation. It protects the brain from oxygen deprivation by putting its cellular activity on pause. So it's kind of like a bypass in a way. So it essentially gives a surgical team hours to treat a critically injured patient who would normally be brain dead in minutes. Okay, they end up opening it after a while. She's like, we got to reverse the process. Sasha reverses the process, is able to open the main pod. And of course, as we guessed, Brigitte's in there, not Catherine. So Langdon honestly is like, yes. But Sasha freaks the fuck out. And Sasha has epilepsy. So she just immediately goes into a seizure. Luckily, Langdon can't find her medicine, but at least he's there to hold her and keep her, in a safe position, right? So that's what's up with Langdon. What's up at the embassy? Michael Harris just got out of his meeting with the ambassador, and he is shook by the confidential information that he was just made privy to. He's like, oh shit, I should have had this meeting before I asked my secret girlfriend to become entangled in this. So he immediately runs down back to Dana's office and is like, Dana, hi, the thing that I just asked you to do, which of course she's doing right now. She prioritized this. She is zooming in on the woman on the bridge. And he's like, yeah, can you stop? And can you forget that I ever asked? And Dana is like, oh, okay, honey, sure, whatever. And as he walks out, she is like, the fuck? I'm not gonna stop looking at this. Because remember, Dana is convinced that Michael has another woman. And so she's tracking this woman, and she's tracking her so hard that she's jumping from CCTV to CCTV to CCTV, that she eventually catches up and is watching this stuff unfold live. And she's really captivated because this woman walks across the bridge in her weird ass outfit. She sees the interaction with Langdon. That's weird. And then she walks for a little bit more and then just takes off her costume, throws her spear and her crown and whatever into the river, puts on a wig. So now she's blonde and she's got a red sweater on. She totally looks different. She sits in the park for a little bit, has a cup of coffee. She ends up going back to the Four Seasons. And do you know why Dana feels vindicated in her search? Because who else enters the Four Seasons almost at the exact same time? Michael Harris. So she is like, oh, gotcha. Gotcha. Part of her is like, is my boyfriend dumb enough to ask me to watch his other woman? But also she's like, but a woman's intuition. You can never beat that. And Harris is at the Four Seasons and he's basically like, hey, for the investigation, I need to just check that room one more time. Can you let me in? And the manager is like, absolutely, sure. And brings him upstairs. And he's so distracted by all the shit that's been going down in the hotel this morning that he doesn't notice a woman with blonde hair and a red sweater follow Harris up to the room. Lieutenant Pavel is concerned that Janacek hasn't come back yet. So he's looking all around for Langdon and he realizes he also found the elevator. So he's like snooping around there. He doesn't have the password though. So by the time he comes out of that little secret alcove, he notices that the door that was originally locked is open. So he goes in thinking, oh, maybe Janacek went before me, whatever. Or Langdon and co, the suspects, are in there working together. So he starts running down the hallway, ready to catch these Americans and the one Czech lady. Okay. Where is Janacek? Ooh, great question. Janacek is dying at the bottom of a cliff. Where the lab is, it's like on a cliff. And when we last left him, he was on the phone admiring the view. Yeah, he got pushed. He did not jump. He got pushed. And as he's laying there bleeding out, he goes over the conversation that he had with the ambassador. And a part of him is honestly like, thank God I don't have to see the outcome of this. Because what are the 6 words that the ambassador said to him? Not what I expected. The words are, we know there was no bomb. Pardon? Yeah. So apparently Janacek got a call from some American, Dr. Finch, we're assuming, that these Americans, Robert and Catherine, need to be arrested. We need them in jail, off the playing field for a little bit. Janacek was like, honestly, like, the only thing I can make up is like disturbing the peace or something, whatever. But they're like, oh, no. You can be bold. You can say there was a bomb. There wasn't a bomb. And the American ambassador knows this. So Janacek is like, honestly, great that I'm not going to be disgraced. And he feels really at peace. That's really great for him. Then we get a bit of information about Sasha. Sasha, who's in the midst of a seizure. She's got a dark past. So she's born in Russia. She has epilepsy, has a lot of seizures, like a lot, all the time. And apparently the only thing, and like whatever her many diagnoses were, doctors basically were like, you need to put her in this specific home, like asylum basically. And her parents were like, cool, great. And just like dropped her off there when she was 10, never came back. She is physically, mentally, maybe in other ways abused because part of her epilepsy is that she also has like memory issues and blackouts, which apparently is quite common. And she's been there for years. And one day she gets dragged out of her cell by the other handlers to be like, you need to confess. We're putting you in solitary confinement. I can't believe that you did this. Oh my God, what are we going to do? Because her specific handler, who was incredibly abusive and horrific to her, like withheld her seizure medication to just like watch her have seizure, like bad stuff. Okay. That guard or whatever was found that morning with her head like completely turned around and like dead. And this is why I'm thinking the golem is protecting Sasha, because she's kind of like, who could have done this? Genuinely, who could have done this? And like nobody knew how abusive she was to me. Like this is almost like the work of a guardian angel or the work of a golem. That is what I'm thinking. Okay. But fast forward a little bit later, she's being held in solitary confinement when she is pulled into a meeting room with a woman named Brigitte Gessner. Brigitte is like, hey girl, I have a proposition for you, which she's already like put all of the things in place. So Sasha's not going to say no. But essentially she has bought Sasha's freedom and needs Sasha to come back to Prague with her so that Gessner can give her this like chip in her brain. And I believe that this is true. This is a technology that exists now, but basically a chip that helps with the like electric currents in your brain and kind of helps with seizures. She is like, oh yeah, you have this like particular lobe epilepsy and I happen to be able to treat it and blah, blah, blah. Like I even brought one of your colleagues, like another person at this facility named Dimitri, and fixed him. He's already at home in Russia, blah, 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 blah. So Sasha agrees. They do the procedure. Her seizures are significantly under control. She still has memory issues and blackouts though. And then Brigitte is like, I don't know if you're busy, but you have no family and I kind of need an intern. Want to help me out? And also I have this empty apartment you can live in for free, blah, blah, blah. Sasha's like, yes, absolutely. This is great. So for, I think it's now like 2 years, she has been working with Brigitte. Okay. So that's the story. And then she wakes up in Robert Langdon's arms. And then our last person to check in with is Jonas. Jonas is in the back of the van. It's freezing and they're still questioning him. They're like, all right, I've got some more questions for you, Mr. Falkman. And Jonas is like, you can call me Jonas. Kidnapping is much less formal than it used to be. The guy's got jokes. Anyway, they ask him a bunch of questions and they are surprised to learn, again with their like little lie detector thing, Jonas was unaware that Catherine herself printed out a manuscript. So she has a physical manuscript somewhere in Prague, which is exciting. And as they're having this conversation, Jonas can't help but notice that there's really peculiar sounds outside of the van, sounds that sound almost like jet. And he's like, am I on a military base? Ladies and gentlemen, we are at 30%. Sasha's awake. Sasha just went through a pretty rough seizure. Once she kind of comes to, she's like, could you get me some water? And remember, he had seen a water bottle with Russian, like a Russian sticker on it. So he was like, oh yeah, for sure. Got it. He runs back to her desk, grabs her water bottle and is filling it up when all of a sudden he gets hit in the head from behind and it's Pavel. He, remember, had like found a way to get down there. He's trying to grab Langdon when all of a sudden he gets hit. And Sasha picked up that fire extinguisher that she was trying to hit Langdon with earlier. And she was like, I'm sorry, I hope he wasn't your friend, but it looked like he was hurting you. So Pavel knocked unconscious. Sasha is like, don't worry, no brain damage. I know exactly where to hit. Whatever. Okay, so he's out. All right. And then Sasha is like, we gotta go. We gotta leave. We'll go somewhere safe because Langdon really wants to contact his legal help, his attaché, Michael Harris. And when he says Michael Harris, Sasha is like, oh, my close personal friend, Michael Harris. Why are they all connected? I don't know yet. The way that she talks about it, it seems like maybe they are in a relationship. So maybe Dana isn't crazy, but she says something about like, oh yeah, like it's been a couple months, something weird. Okay. She gets Harris on the phone, is like, I've got Langdon, we're heading to, and Harris is like, up, not over the phone. I know where you're heading. Tell Harry and Sally I say hello. I'll be there soon. Langdon, this phone call was on speakerphone and Langdon's like, Harry and Sally? And Sasha's like, oh, my cats. That means he knows that we're going to my apartment. So let's go. Okay. Harris, meanwhile, is heading to the lab where he thought Langdon was. So he like gets out. He knows they're not there. When he runs into Pavel and Pavel is like, yeah, Langdon and Catherine attacked me because he doesn't know what Catherine looked like. He's a dummy. He didn't do his research. So when he saw a woman, Sasha, he thought it was Catherine, right? But all of his anger at these Americans completely shifts when he is looking around for Janacek. Harris is helping him look, and they look over the cliff, and there he is in the snow, a circle of blood around him. And Pavel lets out a howl, not only of grief, but of uncontrollable rage. But meanwhile, Dana just goes to the hotel. She wants to catch Michael in the act. And so she gets to the Four Seasons. She goes to the manager and is like, hi, I work for the embassy, shows her badge. I need to deliver something to Michael. Can I go? Sure. Off she trots. She is like, housekeeping, trying to get in. And a woman's voice is like, can you come later? So she just like knocks down the door and runs in, doesn't even look at the woman, just starts searching around the room for Michael. She's like in the bathroom, looking under the bed. When she comes out of the bathroom, there is a gun pointed in her face. And the woman is like, what are you doing here? And she's like, I'm looking for Michael Harris. And the woman is like, yeah, he's not here, babe. I also work within the US Embassy and he was just sent here to help me get into this room and he's gone. So you need to leave. Dana agrees to leave, feeling a little stupid. And the woman's name, the woman who was on the bridge and now she's like in a new disguise, remember? Her name is Susan Housemore. She is the field officer and she was sent by Dr. Finch to try and find a printout of the manuscript. So that's why she wanted to get back into that bedroom. So it seems like Dr. Finch and the creepy Q group is working with the US Embassy because the ambassador made Harris go and let this woman into the room. So they mentioned this a couple of times and it sounds gaudy and awful, but apparently the US Embassy sent Catherine like a bouquet of either roses or tulips. I think they were roses, but they were dyed red, white, and blue because of America, but also the Czech flag. And apparently there was like a listening device in it. Meanwhile, on the way to Sasha's apartment, Robert has come to the same conclusion that there was a listening device, right? He's like, he had a routine where he would leave like every single day. He leaves and then he comes back to the hotel at 7 because he needs to go swimming, right? And he has even said this out loud. He's like, I'll be back at 7, blah, blah, blah. The fact that all of this could have easily been rigged and arranged with a listening device and stuff like that, he knows deep in his gut that he has been set up. Back with Jonas, apparently there is a small unknown military base in Brooklyn. So that's all he could think. He's like, we didn't drive that far. We must be in the city still. So he thinks he's in Brooklyn and he's like, why are these guys even interested in this manuscript? So he kind of calls up to the guy with the buzz cut, the military guy, and he's like, hey, you know that this is a science book, right? Like, why are you so interested in it? And he's like, I'm not. My employer is. And so Jonas is like, oh, Darth Vader can read? It makes the military guy chuckle. Jonas is charming them slowly but surely. And he's like, yeah, our employer is, and you'll meet him soon because we're getting on a plane to Prague.
We're all going to London!
And Jonas is like, whoa, no, we're not, because I can't go to, I don't have my passport. I need to feed my cat. And the guy is like, I stole your passport from your apartment earlier and I shot your cat. And at first I was like, oh, but Jonas is like, you liar, I don't even have a cat. So they're just like, they're these little jokesters. We've got a comedic duo in the van. Okay, but apparently Jonas is coming to Prague. So off we go. And we're only at 30%. I have no idea how long. I've been reading for a while, but I don't know how long I have talked. So this video might be really long. I don't know. I still have no idea what's going on. I thought Janacek was going to be a good guy. Who's going to come save the day? I'm getting an ocular migraine. So everything in this part of my vision is a blur, making it a little difficult to read. So I'm going to take a nap. Hopefully I will see you soon. This usually goes away with a little bit of eye rest. So see you soon, but I just don't know where. I think the golem is connected to Sasha. And I think that, wait, what about Dimitri? Why did we name drop some guy named Dimitri? Okay. Hello, friends. It's later. I've had lunch. If I have anything on my face, it's because I have not had time to clean up because I think I am ready to make my first official guess. I think I already said this, but I feel more strongly about it now. The golem, is Dimitri. It's a working theory. The golem is Dimitri, he was mentioned briefly, but he is the boy that Dr. Gessner originally helped with the seizure thing. And he knew Sasha because they were in the same like asylum, basically, right? Mental health facility, torture chamber, right? And her that he keeps talking about is Sasha. And the reason I came to this conclusion, I will show you in a second. But yeah, I think that Gessner maybe even created the monster. All right, here, this is why. I'm gonna pull up my notes. I only read like a very few pages. Okay, random flashback scene to Gessner just continuing to be awful. And she had a weird symbol. And I feel like I have to mention this because Langdon is a symbologist or whatever. When she is packing up, she's like, ugh, these people are so annoying. She opens her briefcase and Langdon notices a card that says Prague, Prague, and the A is kind of funky. I'll put it on here. And he's basically like, what is that? And she's like, oh, it's just a card for my health club. Like, that's how I get in my health club. And he's like, wouldn't a health club spell Prague like in Czech, in English, like Praha? But okay, and the A is some Hindu symbol. It is the Vel spear, a Hindu symbol of power. It represents enlightenment, a sharply tuned mind, and it is used to cut through the darkness of ignorance and conquer your enemies. That's that. She also is like just an asshole to both of them. And after Langdon asks her about this, and he's like, that's a really weird health card. Like, why is it a Hindu symbol on your Prague health club? And she says, it's clear, Gessner said, sounding irked, that symbologists and noeticists are a perfect match for one another. You both see meaning where there is none. And she leaves. Okay, here we go. This is where I had my brain blast, right? We are in the apartment, Sasha's apartment. We meet the cats, Harry and Sally. Fun fact, Robert Langdon has never seen When Harry Met Sally. What the hell? That's weird. Please remedy that. There's a knock at the door. And Michael Harris, who is, remember, on his way, he wouldn't knock. He has a key, apparently. I don't know. This doesn't seem like a Michael thing. So they stay really quiet. Before they open the door, they notice that there's a piece of paper pushed under the door. Sasha opens it and she's like, it's for you. Whatever it says, he reads it. Langdon pulls open the door, runs out the hallway into the snowy world outside, and he just screams, "Who are you? What have you done with her?" And who left the note? The golem. Interesting. But then we learn a little bit more about Sasha, okay? What is her relationship to Michael Harris? Apparently their friendship started a few months ago where they kept running into each other at this one cafe. Like they both stopped there every day before work. He heard her accent when she was ordering, and also her cup always had her name on it. So he like came up and started speaking Russian to her. He was like, "Hey Sasha, what's up?" in Russian. And so they just kind of hit it off. Like Sasha's really lonely. She has no friend other than Dr. Gessner, basically. And she just kind of told him the whole story. And here's where things get interesting. First of all, Harris and Langdon are thinking the same thing. They're like, this Gessner person sounds like an asshole. Why is she being so nice to Sasha? She just like found this girl randomly in Russia. We don't know how she found her. Like basically adopts her, brings her to Prague, gives her a free apartment, gives her like a life-changing implant, gives her a job. Like why is Sasha so special to her? That's really weird. So she has the implant, right? Sasha explains that when she gets like the fog, which is kind of like she can tell when a seizure is coming, she has this like metal magnetic wand, she calls it. And if she just kind of like rubs it on a particular part of her head, it activates the chip and she hasn't had seizures since. It's life-changing. It's amazing. But what I didn't tell you, because I thought it was kind of weird, I'm sorry for leaving this out. The golem also was like using a metal wand and rubbing his head because he was like walking home to his apartment to do his whole like release, go back into the ether thing. But something was like, the process was starting before he got home. So he was like, "Oh no, not ready yet. Hold off, hold on." And he's like rubbing his head with the metal thing so that he could make it home to then have his ether. I think it's Dimitri. I think that whatever she did with Dimitri in her first experiment created, like his consciousness is separated from his body. I fully believe. Okay. That's my, but the plot thickens because why is Harris hanging out with this sad, lonely Russian girl? So originally we thought he was feeling guilty because of Dana, but no, this isn't a romantic relationship. This is a strategic one. And apparently the ambassador has asked him to befriend Sasha and extract information for whatever reason. He kind of isn't given 100% of his mission, right? But sure enough, he is now like a confidant. Sasha is an open book. And so he goes to the ambassador and he's like, "Honestly, I don't really feel good about this anymore. She doesn't have any secrets. Like, she's an open book. She doesn't know anything. Really, like, I think we can stop trailing her, basically." And the ambassador is just like, no. If you thought it was dangerous, then sure, we could talk about extracting you from this, but it seems like you're just having a moral dilemma, and that is not good enough for me. And I'm also sure that Dana would love to hear that you're spending time with another woman. And Michael is like, "Oh my God, you know about Dana?" And she's like, "Of course I know about Dana." And so he is threatened with being fired or being tattled on, and also Dana losing her job, likely. So he has stayed on. Sasha is unaware that her like one and only friend is a spy. That's it for now. I just wanted to come on here and say that Gessner made or like put everything in motion for the golem to exist. And it is Dimitri. And there's that because Dimitri killed the abusive, evil nurse that was hurting Sasha. I'm sure of it. What does this have to do with fucking anything? I don't know. Wait. My jaw has been on the floor. What? Guys, we are 34% of the way through. You are not going to believe what I just read. Is my hair okay? Okay. All right. Let's go back to the beginning though. All right. So Langdon had got a letter when he was at Sasha's place, right? The letter said, "I have Catherine come to Petrine Tower." Apologies. So yeah, he's gonna go get his girl. And for some reason he tells Sasha, he's like, "No, it's safer if I go alone." Idiot. So he goes to the tower by himself and tells Sasha to stay in the apartment and wait for Michael to come. So he grabs a taxi to get to the tower, not knowing that at this same time, Paval, oh my God, why have I forgotten his name? The lieutenant, Janacek's loyal companion, he is convinced that Langdon is the one who killed his commander. So he's going to get revenge. He says eye for an eye. So he puts out an Amber Alert, basically being like, Robert Langdon killed a police officer, and like added a photo. And everyone got it, like as an emergency alert on their phones. So his taxi driver got the emergency alert and sees the man in the back of his taxi and is like, holy shit, I know where he is. But he doesn't stop Robert. He just calls it in. And Langdon has like kind of already gotten out, okay? He goes to the tower and no one is there. Catherine is not there, okay? So a lovely couple asks him if he could take a photo for them because they're on their honeymoon. And then he's like, actually, oh my God, phone. You have a phone. Can I use it to try and call people? Because remember, his phone is in the river. He is phoneless. He calls the hotel. Catherine never came back. Okay. Then he decides to check his email and he like pretends that someone picked up. He's like, Catherine, oh my God, honey. Like he tries to make it seem really urgent and something that needs to be private. So he like walks off away from the couple so that he can like quickly email. He has a bunch of emails. One of them is from Catherine. The subject, blank. The body of the email, blank, but there's an attachment. There's a photo. It takes a long time for this thing to load. Eventually the man comes running back and he's like, I thought you were making a phone call. Give us our phone back, you creep, blah, blah, blah. He grabs it, but just in time, the picture loads and Langdon has like a photographic memory or whatever. He remembers what he saw. Let's check in with Jonas. I actually think this is whack. I don't know. I have no idea where Jonas's storyline is going. I'm on the ride. Thank you, Dan Brown. They are getting ready to put him on a plane. He has been in this freezing car. He essentially has like frostbite on his hands. So as they're getting ready to move him to the airplane, the like good cop versus the bad cop, the nicer guy comes and like unties him for a second. He's like, listen, just like get your hands warm. Like, please don't run. I have a knife. He lets him, be free for a second. And then the guy's like, be good. I'm gonna go pee in a bush. And when he goes off, Jonas obviously runs for freedom. He actually jumps, he like slams the back of the van closed, jumps in the driver's seat and peels away. And you'd think, yay, victory for Jonas, right? Also, he's not on a military base. He's in New Jersey. He's in Teterboro. And he's like, fuck, we're flying private. They don't need to register me. Like nobody knows where I am. At least if we were flying commercial, they'd have to put my name down somewhere, right? And the two cops are like, awesome, great. He did exactly what we wanted him to do. Apparently, there was no plane waiting. There was no flight to Prague. They had simply parked their van on an access road next to Teterboro's aviation services and then created the illusion of a perfect escape moment. And they put a tracking device in the van because they knew if Jonas was smart, he would steal it. So now they are tracking the van, his location, and they bugged his phone. So he immediately calls Langdon and he leaves Langdon and then Catherine both voice messages basically being like, someone is trying to kill you. I have been kidnapped. If you have any copies of the manuscript, lock that baby up. Shit's going down. Okay. So yeah, now they are listening to everything. Okay. And then this is when my jaw hit the floor and I still can't believe that this just happened. I can't believe we're at 34%. Jesus Christ. All right. Michael Harris arrives at Sasha's apartment. He goes in, he sees Harry, he sees Sally. He doesn't see Sasha. He's looking around. It's quiet until he hears a floorboard creak behind him. And before he can turn, he feels an electric shock go through his body and he falls to the ground. Who is there? Gollum. He says, Sasha cannot hear you. Not where she is now. And then with him stunned with a, what is it? Vipertech stun gun. He is now unconscious. So as he is straddling Michael Harris, the Golem takes a plastic bag, puts it over his head, and holds it there for 3 minutes. Michael is dead. Michael is dead. Like he refers to him as a corpse. This isn't like, oh, maybe he just knocked him out and did some brain damage. No, he refers to it as the corpse. Michael Harris, the young, hot, bilingual stud from Philadelphia, is dead. I could not believe that. And then the Golem goes into Sasha's apartment to find a piece of paper. She apparently only has stationery with kittens on it. He uses it to write a letter and leaves it on the body that is in the hallway, and it is addressed to none other than the U.S. ambassador. We still have 90 chapters left of this book, more than 400 pages. What is going on? Okay, we're 300 pages in. However, things are starting to move really quickly. So I have a feeling this plot is going to be moving really fast. And we have some of my predictions have worked. So what was the photo that Catherine sent? It's this very weird symbol written in the alphabet of Enochian, I think, often called angelic tongue. This language was quote unquote discovered here in Prague in 1583 by two self-proclaimed mystics. It was allegedly the language by which the mediums could speak to spirits and obtain wisdom from the other realms. So this is really interesting because Catherine didn't know that this alphabet existed until yesterday when her and Robert were like talking about it, and he just happened to show her this fun app that like translates it, whatever. And so he's positive that it is this language from Catherine, and he decodes it, and it's just LXXEDOC. Means nothing. At first I was thinking, oh, it's a doc file, like it's a .doc. Maybe she's being like, look on my computer for this hidden doc. Wrong. It was a good guess, in my opinion. But he can't think too deeply about that because all of a sudden, the Uzi show up. Pavel? Why do I keep forgetting this man's name? He shows up. So Langdon's got a jet. Also, I love being right. Sure enough, the Golem is indeed the protector of Sasha. So why did he have to kill Harris? Because Harris was committing the worst crime of all. Apparently, Gessner was mentally and physically was abusing her. In his mind, we haven't seen enough evidence of this, but in his mind, Gessner was abusing Sasha. Harris was abusing Sasha's heart. He was pretending to love her, and apparently they did sleep together in the form of like they did fall asleep together. Harris said like he never let it get too physical. So I don't know if they ever actually slept together, but they at least were like cuddle buddies, and Sasha definitely called him sweetheart. So yeah, he wasn't just being like, oh, we're friends kind of thing, you know? So yeah, that is why Harris got but unconfirmed if it's Dmitri. I think it is, but he just basically says that although she didn't know it, Sasha's soul had collided with his years ago in a Russian mental institution in a moment of horrific violence. Sasha had been alone and unprotected, enduring a brutal beating from the wicked night nurse when the Golem had appeared in the room, unable to bear the abuse any longer. The Golem intervened, lashing out, breaking the nurse's neck. Sasha was unconscious at this point, and so she never saw him, and the Golem silently slipped back into the darkness. But in that moment, quote, their two souls had become forever entwined, and he pledged to protect her. Now, as this is going down, our man is rubbing clay all over him. He is not made of clay. This is a human man making himself look like a golem. So do I still think it's Dmitri? Yes. But yeah, he's not made of clay. He is a human being, okay? And also he doesn't want to kill Langdon. It seems like he has no dog in this fight other than he wants to kill the top dog, which is this Dr. Finch, and he wants to like cut everybody else down. Catherine is not involved. He doesn't even know where Catherine is, to be honest. He's like, I actually don't know. I just needed Langdon out of the way so that I could kill Harris. Gollum is not our enemy, let's just say, okay? Jonas is fitting right in New Jersey. He's driving like a madman trying to get back to Manhattan when he gets a call from Alex, the first call from Alex. And he's like, hey, so I don't know how to tell you this, but I'm pretty sure they killed one of our authors in Prague. And the people who are listening in, the kidnapper, I'm just going to call them the kidnappers. They have names. It doesn't really matter. Okay. The kidnappers are listening in and they're like, oh, like they didn't expect this. Okay. But they're like, you know what? Finch says this had to be finished in any way necessary. So okay. The second call from Alex is when Jonas is crossing the George Washington Bridge. Should he be answering his phone while driving across the George Washington Bridge? I don't think so. But he picks it up. Alex is like, hey, so two things. Number one, pretty sure I know who hacked us. Number two, pretty sure they're tracking your phone and maybe even listening in on this conversation. So if you want to like, and before Alex can even finish that sentence, Jonas has just like thrown his phone out the window and he heads to Penguin Random House. Okay. We get a bunch of different chase sequences. First, it is up and down the tower with Robert Langdon and Pavel. Then he's like running through the streets. He ends up in the, what is it called? The Mirror Maze, built in 18 91. There's a lot of interesting Prague stuff in here. Thank you very much, Dan Brown. He runs in there. There's a huge chase. Pavel shoots him, but he shoots one of Langdon's reflections, not the real Langdon. And all the while he's running, he's like running this code thing. When he comes to the conclusion that if you scramble the letters, it spells Codex XL. And he and Catherine had just gone to see something called the Devil's Bible, which is this massive book, officially known as the Codex Gigas. And so he thinks she must be there. Like she's trying to tell him to meet him there, like where they were a couple days ago in front of this Bible. So he makes it top priority to get over to the other side of the city to get into that museum. Some things that we learn about this codex, kind of the lore behind it, is actually really interesting. Essentially, there was a monk that was going to be bricked up into the wall for his sins. Basically, he broke his vows of celibacy. So they were bricking him in, like he was gonna die, starve to death in the wall. Gotta love medieval times, all right? They're bricking him up. He's like begging them for another chance. And the other guys are like, oh, sure, yeah, we'll give you another chance. If you can write a book overnight containing all of the knowledge in the world. And the monk is like, bet, let me out. So they get him a desk, they get him a room, they give him the night, they come back the next morning and he has this massive book that he wrote through the night. But in order to accomplish this task, he had to sell his soul to the devil. Hence the name, the Devil's Bible. So oops, Robert Langdon is like, she wants to meet me in front of the codex. What is my thought? I think she hid the manuscript in a wall. I don't know what wall, but she hid it in a wall. That is the next hat I'm tossing in the ring. I know where the manuscript is, okay? Also, this is like part of what's in her book. This is part of what she is trying to prove, or what she believes she has proven, right? She thinks that consciousness is not in the mind. It is not actually anywhere in the body. It is sort of all over. That is why with this whole like sudden savant syndrome, if you have a brain injury and then you wake up and you can speak Spanish, it's possible that like sort of like a radio tuning, your antennas got whacked and you have now like your brain is now connecting to like another piece of the ether of the world of the consciousness that it normally didn't. That's what she's arguing, okay? Quickly checking in with the ambassador, she's not happy. She has just found out that the Uzi have put out a call for Langdon's head, basically. And she knows that he didn't kill anybody, and Catherine is missing. We can't get a hold of Harris. Things are going to shit. So she calls her boss, Dr. Finch, and she's basically like, your operation is falling to shit. The second she says that, she realizes, ooh, okay, I kind of overstepped there. Finch is very cold about that. He didn't like that. But tis true. Also, we get this introduction to Mark, who works the night shift security desk for Penguin Random House, and he's so sweet. He's like new to the job. He's 28. He promised his wife that he's gonna make the day shift by 30. He's really excited to work the day shift so that he can spend more time with his wife. He's just like, seems like adorable. He's like, yeah, I love this job because I have access to the Penguin Random House library and I have so much time to read. I just finished The Grapes of Wrath. This is so wonderful. Like, man after my own heart, Mark. I knew shit was gonna happen to him. So in the next scene, the kidnappers who have traced, they weren't only tracing Jonas's phone, they were tracing his vehicle. So they knew he went back to Random House. They rush in, zip tie Mark, put him under the desk, and they're like, listen, if you don't scream, nobody's gonna get hurt. Just like lay there. But poor Mark. So yeah, they make their way upstairs. Meanwhile, Jonas and Alex are having a meeting in the tech room. Alex is taking his sweet time explaining how he discovered this information. Number one, nobody's dead. He made a little mistake. He was trying to track everybody's phone, and the only person who has Find My Phone on is Robert Langdon, because apparently he's really bad at security measures. His password is Dolphin123 for everything, and his location was the middle of the river, and it had been unmoving for hours. So Alex kind of assumed the worst, and he's like, never mind, my bad, sorry about that. This is why the use of the versus a is very important when looking for clues. Okay, so yeah, Robert Langdon, not dead. Who hacked us? We get a roundabout tale. And just as he's about to tell us who, we hear footsteps outside of the door. Alex looks around and doesn't see anybody, but Jonas knows somebody's in there, somebody's listening in. So they start typing to each other. Alex's face was pale, and taking a deep breath, he dutifully typed out his reply. Fachman Jonas studied the bizarre hyphenated word that Alex had typed. It was unfamiliar to him. He gave the tech a confused shrug and mouthed, "Who is that?" Alex began typing again, this time a short acronym. Jonas stared at it in mute shock. The question now was what Jonas was going to do about his current predicament, because whatever it is, the only word that came to mind was fuck. Also, Robert makes his way into the museum. He's walking around the Devil's Bible being like, Catherine. Off we go. We continue. I'm going to read. I'm giving myself one more hour. Let's see how much I can read. All right, my friends, 52%. And finally, some damn answers. Yeah, things are happening really quickly now. So here we go. I can't believe we're only halfway through. Okay, Dan. All right. Things that occur. I'm kind of right. I'm half right. Actually, I'm fully right with a bonus. We are in the Baroque library looking at the Devil's Bible, etc., as we know, okay? And we know that Robert and Catherine had gone there earlier, had like a fun museum date, whatever. So he's going through all of the memories, and he remembers something that Catherine said, that in the library there are these balconies, and she was like, how do you get up there? There aren't any stairs. And Robert's like, watch this. And he like pulls one of the shelves, which I do not believe visitors are supposed to do. But he pulls one of the shelves and there is a spiral staircase hidden behind the shelf. So you can access the balcony. As he's having this thought, the guards start to yell like, fire, drill, emergency, everybody out, get out. And he realizes, no, there's no fire. I'm still being chased. So he runs to find hiding. So he goes into that little staircase place. The door won't open. The shelf won't budge. So then he's like, wait a damn minute. Why would this be locked? Why would you lock something like this when it wasn't locked a couple days ago? Somebody's in it. So he just starts yelling. He's like, Catherine? Catherine opens the door. Catherine is in the wall. Catherine and her manuscript is in the wall. So I will take a point for myself. Thank you very much. Yeah, Catherine went into hiding. She's also very torn up because she thought that Robert was dead, because Alex left her a voicemail saying like, hey, Robert's phone is in the river. Alex basically freaked everybody out for no reason. So yeah, she's very happy that Robert is alive. She has the manuscript. How the fuck are they gonna get out? Pavel just runs in and starts shooting things. He is like, police business, everybody out. He realizes like Langdon has to still be in here. So yeah, he just starts shooting things. So Robert is like, how am I going to get him out of here? How am I going to override the power of the police? I'm going to put these books in danger. This is the Baroque library, okay? These books are thousands of years old. People are going to run in and help. So he takes a mixture. This scene is so long for no reason. He takes a mixture of like hand sanitizer and like a phone battery and something else, and he sets a fire. What does he set on fire? Not the 1,000-year books, don't you worry. Langdon's an academic. He sets Catherine's manuscript on fire. Catherine is like, pardon? What are you doing? And he's like, people have died for this. Somebody's going to take it from us eventually. We are not well equipped to protect these pieces of paper. Let's just burn it. We need to burn something. Let's burn this. And sure enough, there's enough smoke and stuff to set off the fire alarms. The museum people come barging in. They're like, we don't give a shit about the police. We are protecting these books with our lives. And Robert and Catherine make a break for it. And you know what? They don't even have to run that far because they are protected by 2 Marines and the ambassador liaison, Dana. Dana has been let in on everything. Basically, the ambassador found out that Harris told her things and whatever. She signed the NDA. She's in on the gig, okay? It is her job to come pick up Langdon and Catherine, bring them to the ambassador's house. Not the embassy, the ambassador's house. They start getting into the limo. Catherine gets in, and Langdon is like, something's not right. But he can't really pinpoint it, so he just gets in. Everybody's yelling. Marines are yelling at him, so he'll listen. They get in, and then he realizes, that's where I remember that from. So remember how I told you about the listening device that the ambassador hid in the bouquet of gaudy red, white, and blue flowers in the hotel room? Yeah, Robert noticed it. As he was like in his crazy state running to the balcony, he noticed that there was like a tiny little thing in the roses, and it would like bup, 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 anytime there was sound. It was clearly recording sound. And it was right underneath a card written by the ambassador with the embassy seal on it. And the embassy seal was on the limo door. And that's why he was like, fuck, I've got a bad feeling. He still got in the car. All right, so they're on their way to trouble because remember, the ambassador works for Dr. Finch. Dr. Finch is going to kill anyone necessary to get his hands on the manuscript. So we're going to leave them in the car for a second. We're going to zoom back to New York City because my boy Mark is a genius. So Jonas is correct. The kidnappers are listening in. They want to know, who does Alex think hacked them. And Jonas is like, Library Gen, LibGen, which is like some very famous piracy organization who steals a lot of books, literature. He's like, oh no, what are we going to do? And satisfied, the kidnappers leave. And as they're leaving, they're basically like, hey, Mark, your bosses, the people you work with, dumb as a box of rocks, okay? Because LibGen did not hack them. Okay, these kidnappers do not work for LibGen. They're like, and by the way, we looked you up, man. Your kids are real cute. Looks like you got a really good life in Brooklyn. Quiet, easy. Be a shame if anything happened to it. And Mark understands that they are threatening him. Like if he were to ever expose them, his kids would be in jeopardy, right? And so as they head out the door, he slams the emergency lock button on his desk. So the doors aren't opening. And they're like, what the fuck, man? And he's like, you know what? There's an in and out key. You didn't think of that? You came in, you had the key to get in, but you didn't get out. I can't help you. I cannot open the door. They couldn't, and these are like the pulley doors, okay? But there is a revolving door that isn't locked. So they're just like, oh, you dumbass. Like who built this building? And they get into the revolving door, and it's big enough for two people, so they're sharing the cute little boop, 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 boop. They get halfway around, and Mark slams the other locked door, locks them in the revolving door, calls the police. Gorgeous Mark. He's basically like, yeah, nobody threatens my kids, so enjoy prison, babes. Meanwhile, Jonas and Alex are pretty sure that the men have left and fallen for their charade, and they realize they haven't heard from Mark, so they try to call the security desk. He's not answering, so they run down, fearing the worst, and they see the scene of the police officers rounding up the kidnappers, Mark standing there like a champ. I'm pretty sure Jonas says something really silly like, if you spent less time at the gym and more time reading, you'd know the bad guys always lose at the end of books. Jonas, you had much better lines. That one was a little bit lame, okay? And now, manuscript burnt. They're heading potentially to their deaths. Catherine, tell us what your goddamn book is really about. What is the piece that is getting you in trouble? So she talks about a couple different things. Number one is that one thing that really holds back this particular branch of science, they have a real problem with repeatability. They can prove something in one test, but they can never get the same results again. And in science, that's how you prove things, is if it's a repeatable thing, right? However, she argues that consciousness exists in the quantum realm, and the quantum realm is defined by its unpredictability. So she's sort of like, it's not our fault that we can't reproduce these things, even though we're getting such incredible, interesting results. Okay, so that's like one prong that we need to understand. Okay, but her main thing revolves around something called GABA, gamma aminobutyric acid. It's a remarkable compound, a chemical messenger in your brain that plays a critical role in regulating brain activity. But instead of it boosting your brain activity, it actually inhibits it. It filters what your brain handles. Similar to our eyesight, we do not see the full spectrum of light that exists. We can only see a certain amount of light. Same with noises, we can only hear to a certain decibel, etc. Our senses are filtered. We don't experience 100% of reality, okay? And that is what she's arguing with consciousness. Let's go with her here. Let's go on this journey. She gives other examples like habituation, things becoming habitual. So like if you live in a house, oftentimes like a certain smell, if you are in a room for long enough, your brain doesn't notice the smell anymore. Or if there's like a really loud air conditioner, your brain doesn't pick up on that anymore. If you're at a loud party, it's what helps you focus on the person who's talking to you instead of the noise around you, etc. That's just one example. Okay, you get it. And so this amino acid essentially is doing that for like the rest of your brain. Like everything, every piece of information that you're getting, it kind of like tunes it down. Okay. She says a good way to look at it is with babies. So newborns aren't very aware of things around them, right? And kids have to be kind of protected from having too much stimulation when they're younger, things like that. And so their GABA levels are really, really high. And they drop as we get older and as we are able to take in more input and kind of filter the knowledge ourselves, blah, 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 blah. Apparently, Tibetan monks exhibit exceptionally high levels of GABA during meditation because it shuts down basically everything around you. But interestingly enough, when you are having a seizure, you have very low levels of GABA. So you are actually overstimulated. It's like a chemical storm in your brain. Okay. I'm just repeating what the book says to clarify. Okay. I don't know if any of this is true. But she says that oftentimes epileptic seizures are followed by a pleasurable refractory period known as postical bliss, a peaceful, expanded state of consciousness accompanied by bursts of connectedness, creativity, spiritual enlightenment, and out-of-body experiences. And while people with epilepsy have been studied greatly, one thing that we haven't studied that is very similar to this are near-death experiences. And so she happened to have a friend who was dying. And basically she was like, buddy, can I hook you up to a machine? And he agreed to pass away while he was hooked up to this machine. Okay, friends and family surrounding him. He was happy to be a part of science. Okay, it's fine. It's ethical. Throughout the dying process, I saw rapidly rising levels of key neurotransmitters like adrenaline, endorphins, etc. So you'd think that the GABA levels would also increase to filter out the death experience as the brain shut down. But the opposite happened. In his final moments, GABA levels approached 0, meaning all of his brain filters were gone. And Robert is like, is that good or bad? And Catherine's like, I think it's wonderful. That means during the dying process, our brain opens up. We become a radio that hears the entire spectrum. Our consciousness witnesses all of reality. This is precisely why people who have near-death experiences describe a feeling of total connection, of all-knowing bliss. The chemistry proves it. As we die, our bodies shut down, but our brains wake up. And then, in the 60 seconds before the patient's heart stopped, his brain flooded with high frequency oscillations. So he was having like intense memory retrieval with like levels of which were off the charts. So Langdon's like, okay, so he was like remembering something? No, Langdon. At these levels, he was remembering everything. The concept of your life flashing before your eyes. But then when the brain dies, where does the radio go? Right? If our brains are the radio, locking into the consciousness, where does the radio go, right? According to this research, to me, Catherine said, it sounds like consciousness simply abandons the physical realm at the moment of death and reintegrates back into the whole. You no longer need your body to receive the signal. You are the signal. And that is what Catherine wrote about. Why does Dr. Finch not want that to happen? We do not know. And then they pull into the ambassador's house and it is like behind a fully fortified wall. So Langdon's sort of like, we're not getting out of this. We're not getting out. So that is 52%. I'm going to read just a teeny tiny bit more. Oh, also Dana asks permission to go check on Sasha's apartment because she has been notified of what Sasha and Harris's whole thing is. She's not happy about it, but she's like, at least he was doing a job, not like actually screwing a woman behind my back. And number 2, she had overheard Langdon say something about how he thinks Sasha is in danger and Harris was coming to meet her. So she can't get a hold of anybody. She wants to go check. So Dana heads to the apartment. So we will have an update on that. Also, the golem has locked Sasha in a dark place. I don't know if that means her consciousness is somewhere else or if she's just like in a dark place locked up. I'm not sure about that. I don't know if it's Dimitri. He's talking like maybe Dimitri had some kind of injury and then he forgot his past life and became like a completely blank slate new person. Instead of like waking up and being able to play the piano, he woke up and can't remember anything. Okay, that's my new card on the table. It's still Dimitri. Because the way that he's talking about himself, he's like, I came into being. I woke up like in order to help Sasha. I became a consciousness to help Sasha. I still think it's Dimitri. Guys, this is getting so fun. Now that the gang's all back together, I'm actually having a great time with this whole book. So I only read a couple more pages. We get to the ambassador's house. When they open the door, it smells like chocolate chip cookies. The chef runs in and he is like, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. I didn't get any notice ahead of time, so I'm just kind of throwing things together, but I have cookies fresh out of the oven. So why don't you sit here? I'm gonna get you coffee. Don't worry, I'm gonna make something better than that. And so they just have like a pile of freshly baked chocolate chip cookies. And Langdon is like, well, we may be dancing with the devil, but at least she's a terrific host. So, all right, what does the ambassador have to say for herself? She surprises us all by starting off with an apology from the United States government. She's like, we failed you. You were put in such a dangerous situation. It's my job to protect American citizens. And you were harassed and almost killed by the Czech police force. So, my bad. She also, without even being pushed, owns up to bugging their room. She was basically like, we do this when there's a threat to national security. And Robert Langdon is like, do we look like a threat to national security? And the ambassador is like, don't be racist. Do you know what a national security threat looks like? Describe one for me, huh? Langdon is cowed by this. All right, he is silenced. He admits defeat. And she's like, I had to do that because it was a command from above me and I couldn't say no. So I'm sorry about that. And the person who gave that command, he happens to be on a plane on his way here right now. So he's going to talk to you. But before he talks to you, he needs you to sign an NDA. It is a single page NDA. And Langdon is like, red flag right there. He kind of skims it, but he's like, I don't even need to know. I don't even need to read this because there is no way we are signing this NDA because you are trying to silence the manuscript. He's like, yes, we burned all of the copies. Deleted, burned all the copies. That's great. But what's stopping Catherine from just writing the book again? And we start this cycle all over. No. If we sign this NDA, guaranteed it includes basically anything that we talk about today is going to be confidential. So all he has to do, because it's Mr. Finch. I was calling him Dr. Finch this whole time. He's actually Mr. Finch. Maybe he's both. Anyway, Mr. Finch. All he has to do is come in here and be like, manuscript this, consciousness that, your research this, page 45, blah, 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 blah. And Catherine's not allowed to talk about the manuscript anymore for the rest of her life unless she's breaking this NDA. Okay, so he's like, yeah, fuck you. We're not signing this NDA. Before the ambassador can protest, she gets a text. She looks down, her face falls. I'm assuming she just found out that Harris is dead, okay? But she's like, I need to take this, and she leaves the room. This is when Catherine is like, babe, nobody knows we're here. They could very easily just kill me. Like that's the next logical step is like erase the brain, right? Put my consciousness back into the ether. So we need to tell somebody. Luckily, there is a phone. And he is like, honestly, the ambassador's personal phone is probably the safest line we have access to. So he immediately dials Jonas. It's 5 a.m. in New York, but thank God Jonas is still awake. He has not slept in over 24 hours at this point. And he is like, hello, oh my God, I'm so glad you guys are alive. Langdon is like, yes, I'm with Catherine. We're safe, but who knows for how long. We are in the US ambassador's house and things are not looking good. Things are suspicious. And Jonas is like, well, there are some shady players at play, let me tell you. Have you heard of Tell, because that is who actually hacked Penguin Random House. And they're like, no, I don't think I have. And Catherine's like, yeah, I've never heard of them. And Jonas is like, yeah, no, I hadn't either. But you might know their parent company, the CIA. The CIA owns and operates InQtel, a private venture capital firm that discreetly invests in technologies related to blah, 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 okay? And as he's saying this, you just hear Alex in the background, who's like clearly Googling. He's like, what the hell? He has a Wikipedia page open for Heidi, the ambassador. He's like, huh, check this out. Hired by the CIA directly out of NYU Law. Overseeing CIA Policy Council. Promoted to CIA General Counsel Advising Agency Director. Retired from the CIA to serve as an ambassador. Jonas is like, oh shit, Robert. Get out of that house. Why is this so low-key camp? Okay, I'm going to stop reading here briefly because I have other work to do. I actually have a life outside of this book. I'm at 54% and this has been so fun. People who hate Dan Brown hate fun, okay? Granted, I also have not a science bone in my body, so that also probably helps. I'm not questioning any of this scientific evidence, and that's great. Ignorance truly is bliss, okay? I am the least connected to the radio signals as possible, and I'm having a joyful time. Okay, so I will catch you guys tomorrow. What do I think's going on? I think the Golem is going to do something in which he sacrifices himself and saves everyone. So that's awesome. Is anybody else gonna die? No, I don't think anyone else is gonna die. I hope not. I mean, Mr. Finch can die. I would love for the Golem. The Golem is gonna go out guns a-blazing, killing Mr. Finch. What about the ambassador? Heidi, the ambassador, is going to switch gears. She is going to rebel against Mr. Finch because she loved Harris like a son. I don't know this. Loved Harris like a son and is really torn up by his death. So Heidi and Dana are going to fuck shit up and join Robert and Catherine and Jonas and Alex and Mark to take down this organization and the CIA as a whole. And there will be world peace. Those are my 54% predictions. Thank you very much. And oh my God, what if Gessner comes back to life? No. All right, that's it. See you later. A new day, friends. We are back and we are at 60%. And honestly, I should have just continued one more chapter because everything I predicted came true. Hey. So remember how I had a sneaky suspicion that Heidi, our ambassador, was going to switch sides because Michael Harris was the last straw? That is indeed what happened. She gets the text and just kind of breaks down. This is all her fault in her eyes. And we learn how she came to be in this position, right? How is she the ambassador? She had been working with the CIA for decades at this point when some documents went missing, and eventually agents broke into her house and found them in her desk. And she was like, I don't know how they got there, like innocent mistake. I must have taken them home by accident. Like I have no idea, whatever. So the director of the CIA basically had to put her on leave. And he felt really bad about it because they were good friends. So he was like, you know, me and the president were like this. He's looking for an ambassador. How do you feel about living in Prague? That is how she got there. But as she is getting the ambassador seat, the director of the CIA asks her to meet with the person who kind of helped pull those strings for her to get her a job. And that is a one Mr. Finch. And as she talks to him and as she realizes what exactly his organization does and how shady he is, she realizes that he planted those documents in her house. Like this whole thing has been a setup. They wanted her in Prague because they wanted basically like a female pawn in the old boys game, just like adding a little womanly touch to it, you know? And if she were to ever like break contract or whatever, he has threatened her with various things. She'd be thrown in jail for forever. Okay. So she's over it. She's done. She goes back down to meet with Langdon and Solomon, who, remember, have just been told, get the fuck out of that house. She's about to start talking to them when her phone rings, and it is Finch telling her, like, I'm gonna land in a couple minutes. She starts lying to him, and Langdon and Solomon know she's lying. She's like, oh, okay, amazing. Everything's going great. Yeah, they totally signed the NDAs, blah, blah, blah. And when she hangs up, she lets them in on the scheme. She's like, listen, you're not gonna like it, but I have 3 plans for you. Number 1, just do what he says. Sign the NDA. Catherine, you will probably definitely never publish your book. You also probably won't be able to study a lot of things that you study, etc. Catherine is like, wrong. Next choice. Choice number 2 is publish your book right now. Drop it right now. We don't have the book anymore, babe. And do you know how long it takes to publish a book? Come on. So her third option is the most dangerous one, which is go into the meeting with Finch when he arrives and have him think that you signed the NDA. So he's going to want to use every key word that he's worried about, right? Like everything he doesn't want them to talk about, he will talk about in this meeting, because with the NDA, they aren't going to be able to talk about it anymore. So she's like, we could just record it and then threaten him with that. Langdon is like, that sounds like blackmail. And Ambassador Nagel is like, it's called leverage in CIA speak. But that's when Langdon says, well, there is a 4th idea. Very quickly, the golem needs to get one more thing to open the door to get into Threshold. Remember, he has the key, but it needed something else. It's like in the key card itself, you need the fingerprint. Like only the person who is registered to that key can hold it and insert it at the same time. So he's gonna go back and cut off one of Brigitte's hands, essentially, is what he's doing. But what he doesn't know is that, remember the creepy woman from the bridge who's actually a spy in a red sweater? Do we remember her? She was there. Finch told her to like go make sure it's all secure or whatever. And he kills her. Not before, however, I will say she does note that his steely pale eyes had a Slavic feel. She's tagging him as Russian. And speaking of Threshold, the place that he wants to get into, okay, what is it? It is a secret facility. Apparently, it's not yet fully operational. They've done some isolated testing, but the ambassador is like, I gather it was successful because now they're gearing up to begin in earnest. They're currently training staff offsite in the US and expect the facility to be live within a matter of weeks. What are they trying to do? And why is this an issue with Catherine's work? Apparently, they are trying to do something similar to Stargate, which was a kind of Cold War military operation where they really believed that they could make a psychic spy that would be able to like meditate their way into like an out-of-body experience, astral projection that could just like sit in the Kremlin and spy on Russia. Obviously, that didn't work. But fast forward 50, 60 years, we got new technology. Okay. And if Catherine publishes this book, that is a national security threat, right? Like the US is always military first. This could threaten some of their secrets for whatever they're trying to make for the military. And now, what is the fourth plan, Robert Langdon? We don't know. Dan Brown does this thing that kind of annoys me where he will write that the character tells the other characters the plan, but we don't, as the reader, we don't know. It's like Langdon tells them the crazy plan and they all react with a gasp. On to chapter 4, you know, like he doesn't tell us as the reader. So Langdon has shared with the class what's going on. He's with the ambassador and with Catherine, and they're on their way to a famous bunker that does already exist under Prague. Not before they send an email, like some cryptic email to Jonas so that they know that the ambassador has turned and blah, blah, blah. Okay, Jonas is up to date. And we need to take a detour. Before we go straight to the threshold, we need to pull up to the embassy because remember how we found Michael Harris's body? We also found that note that the golem left for the ambassador. And so Dana and the Marine that she went with found the letter and they're like, yeah, we need to hand this to you. We don't want to open your mail. And the Marines are kind of already on edge and suspicious because the ambassador like drove off. She said like, oh, I left my medicine at the embassy right before a really important meeting with Mr. Finch, which is weird. She just used it as an excuse to get Langdon and Catherine out of the house. They like snuck into her SUV. So all of her guards are kind of like, why is the ambassador acting weird? So her going to the embassy is like getting rid of any suspicion that she's acting weird. Okay, we're at 60%. We continue. Sorry, I gotta move the angle because of the sun. I did math incorrectly yesterday. I thought I only had 200 pages left. Now, after having read 100 pages, now I have 200 pages left. I don't know how I did that incorrectly. So yeah, we've got 200 pages left. This book is too long. Respectfully, this book is too long. We do randomly get an entire page dedicated to Catherine telling us that you should not experiment with drugs. Thanks, Mom. And so the ambassador decides to walk. She gets them like close to the embassy. She's going to walk there and Langdon and Catherine are going to continue and do their thing. Okay. So now Langdon and Catherine are alone in the car. When Catherine brings up a question I have, which is why is such a mean, nasty woman like Gessner being so nice to her lab assistant? And not only that, why would the CIA hire a Russian lab assistant who Gessner found in a mental institution, respectfully? Did Sasha deserve to be there? No, but with her paperwork, with her history, why is the CIA giving her full access to their most precious new project? What continues is a conversation where Robert is like, no, oh my God, I met her. She's so nice. She likes cats. She seems, quote, a lost, gentle soul. And Catherine is like, okay, buddy. Yeah, earlier in this book, she smashed somebody's head in with a fire extinguisher. So gentle, I don't know, okay? We do get a brief mention of Dmitri. Sasha had mentioned him to Langdon, and Langdon's like, yeah, but he got sent back to Russia. And Catherine is like, ugh, I doubt it. You're just believing what Gessner told Sasha? No, we have no reason to believe that they sent a cured Dmitri back to Russia. What are you talking about? Get with it. And so they're trying to get into a bunker that is under Folimanka Park. It's called like the Folimanka Shelter or Crypt. Instead of driving directly to the park, Langdon realizes they probably put the entrance way far away. It's probably in the lab so that people can go into the lab saying like, oh, I'm here to work for Gessner. And nobody's going to be like, why are you entering this? Why are all of these scientists entering this weird doorway in the middle of a park, right? So They head back to the lab, which we know the golem is there. And they quickly realize they can't get in because they've pieced this together that like, oh, the key must be in Gessner's briefcase. Let's look there. Key's not in the briefcase. And Catherine is like, yeah, and somebody definitely already took it because her thumb is missing. And we likely need biodata, okay? But then Catherine has a wonderful plan. I love it when the women are the ones who are making the world spin and Langdon's just there being like, oh no, she can't be a spy. She was nice. Then Catherine has a grand idea, which I thought she was being silly, but it low-key kind of makes sense. Basically, she's like, well, her phone has like 1% battery left. What if she added it to her Apple Wallet? And Langdon is like, that is so stupid. Do you think she would add like a CIA highly confidential level key to her Apple Wallet? And Catherine's like, honestly, kind of yeah, because this key, you only need a thumbprint. But for your phone, you need a password, you need facial recognition, and you need a thumbprint. It's low-key safer. So they try it because they've got her corpse and they know her password. So they put in her password, they do the facial recognition, and they do the thumb thing. This is so dumb. This is why the book is nearly 700 pages long, because we add another stupid hoop to jump through. Her phone is dying and the authentication only lasts for 10 seconds. They somehow need why they could have honestly just dragged her corpse over to the door, in my opinion. But apparently because her phone is dying, we've got like one shot and we need to run from one side of the room to the other in 10 seconds. And Robert Langdon's gonna try. Catherine is like, are you sure you're wearing loafers? Like, can you make it in 10 seconds? And Langdon's like, I got this. So they do it. They do the facial, the whatever, and Robert, just makes it in time. They get into an elevator. They go very deep underground. Remember, they're already underground. Now they're even deeper underground. And they come to, strangely, a subway station, essentially. And we don't know if it's like motion censored or if someone is watching them or whatever, but they get in the train that is waiting for them and it goes. And it's bringing them into the lab. The first door that they enter once they get into this laboratory is they find the medical symbol. They walk into that and they find like a recovery room. It literally says recovery room with beds and things like that. And they can't help but wonder, what are people recovering from in this CIA laboratory? What else has happened? Oh my God. This is actually really funny and really cute. First, I want to throw somebody under the bus. Jonas Kaufman, editor of Penguin Random House, uses ChatGPT. He is trying to find any link between Catherine's work and In-Q-Tel's investments. Don't use ChatGPT, man. And this book, by the way, is published under Penguin Random House. I think that's funny. I wonder who Jonas is based off of. Anyway, the ambassador gets to the embassy, reads the letter. What is the letter? First of all, she's like, who the fuck wrote this on kitten stationery? Strange. And this just cracked me up. It's like so dramatic. It's like there's only 2 lines, handwritten, scribbled frantically, whatever. You turn the page. It's a YouTube short URL. It's like https://youtube.com/ I'm like, did the golem memorize this? That is so funny to me. It says, please save Sasha. And then a YouTube link. I click on it. I took a picture, clicked on it. I will link it down below. It leads to a video, an unlisted vid on the Penguin Random House official YouTube channel. Essentially, the golem filmed his killing of Brigitte, his interrogation of Brigitte. So everything Brigitte told him about Threshold, all of her passwords, all of the people working with her, all of the crazy shit that she knows, he recorded it and he sent it to Heidi, our ambassador. I'll link it down below. It's currently now just a video that says like removed for violent content. I think that's quite clever. And the comments are cute. The comments are like, oh my God, guys, we're all on the same page. So I'll give Dan Brown that. But I do think it's really funny to imagine the golem handwriting a YouTube link on kitten stationery. So Heidi is like, ooh, okay, you strange person. Thank you for giving me so much fucking leverage, because then she gets on the phone with the director of the CIA. And she's basically like, listen, I know that you know that I was framed and put in this position as ambassador to do dirty shit, and my Michael Harris got killed. So you're going to tell me everything that you know. You're going to pull the plug on trying to kill Catherine and Langdon, and you're basically going to do whatever the fuck I say. I'm going to call you back soon. I hope you have answers. If not, I will be releasing this video to the public. I've also downloaded it. I have versions of it saved everywhere. So don't try to fuck with me. And Yeah, we got the CIA running defense now. Also, just very quickly, the golem did get into the threshold. He's looking around and he says that this place was built using Sasha's blood, whatever that means. And to make matters worse, the golem, while he was fighting that woman upstairs that he killed, remember? Apparently he dropped his little metal wand that helps him with his fog, which I'm just gonna call it now. I'm sick of this charade. This is Dimitri, okay? He has epilepsy. The wand helps him with his seizures, okay? I'm sick of calling him the golem. But I will continue. No, I gotta commit, because what if I'm wrong? The golem has a seizure. He just has to ride him out now. He doesn't have his little thingy anymore. So now we have the golem, Catherine, and Langdon all inside this secret CIA bunker. And we have 200 pages left. 75%. And oh my God, Dan Brown, get to the point. Respectfully. Catherine just monologued for like 40 pages. She kept being like, oh, and then I remembered this. Oh, and then I remember. Catherine. First thing that happens is Finch gets a phone call from the director of the CIA, basically being like, you have fucked everything up, as evidenced by you being in Prague, because you wouldn't have to fly to Prague if everything was going swimmingly. And he also says something interesting. He's like, if you fuck with the ambassador, I'm gonna give you hell. Like, the director is really protecting Heidi because she was a friend first, and he feels really bad about putting her in this position. So Finch realizes the ambassador has turned on him. Apparently, like, the director is like, yeah, she says she has all the information. She has everything. So Finch is like, fuck it. We're not going to her house. We're going to the threshold. Everybody is going to the threshold, okay? So off he trots. Meanwhile, Catherine and Robert, I'm going to try and make this quick because this is an obscenely long scene. Robert and Catherine are looking at the lab. They notice quite a few things. Number one, there is a machine that does robotic brain surgery. So that's creepy as hell. We also, Catherine has another meltdown about drugs because there is a VR room, a virtual reality room, but it seems like they are using virtual reality and drugs. Like they have LSD, they have like a certain form of MDMA that is like crazy, whatever. I don't know, not my world. But she's basically like, if you combine these two things, like psychedelics and VR at the same time, you have potential to like fully rewire a brain and fuck it up, okay? So this isn't good. Catherine is very upset about this. And then she's talking about like, what could they be trying to gain from doing all of this? We also, speaking back with the robot brain surgery, when Sasha had that seizure and Langdon was like holding her, if we remember, that's how they like first met, he noticed that she had a lot of scar tissue on her head. And they're very certain that whatever chip was implanted wasn't just for epilepsy. This was like a deep surgery and probably multiple times. And Catherine is like, God damn, like Sasha is the perfect candidate for being used in this way. Like, not only does she have epilepsy, but she's also naive. She's also really loyal to this woman who is like a world-renowned scientist who says that she can cure her and has like given her a salary, given her a home, saved her from an abusive mental institution for Sasha. And then on top of that, Sasha has mentioned that her epilepsy causes some memory issues. Like she has moments where she just like blacks out. She doesn't remember anything. So she's really used to her memory being unreliable, but it's extra unreliable because they find a ton of roofies, like the date rape drug that they likely used on her like before and after the surgery. So Sasha, I'm on the golem's side. Blow this thing up for Sasha, okay? And the golem, when he's having his seizure, is like, I can't be trapped here. I need to get out so that I can release Sasha, so that I can bring Sasha back. Everybody's a little panicked. Okay. Also, this is probably going to come up in the next 150 pages, so I will mention it, but Jonas has redeemed himself. Apparently, Alex told him to try ChatGPT, and Jonas is like, your fucking AI sucks. So good on you, Jonas. Okay. He doesn't like AI, but they did find a connection. Alex found it elsewhere. I do not believe this was found using an AI tool. But apparently there's some kind of connection with the idea of fractals. So again, the whole idea that like a consciousness, we are individuals, but our consciousness is a whole. Alex just wants to put a pin in that. Okay. So put a pin in that. What else do we have going on? Dimitri is trying to blow the place up. Okay. Finch is trying to come down and discover what the fuck is going on in here. And he's basically like, anybody who's been in here, once they've seen this, nobody's getting out alive. So that's bad. But what is Catherine monologuing about for so goddamn long? So she is kind of like not so worried about what's going on because she's like, don't worry, like, in order to do the really crazy shit, like what their probable goal is, I'm assuming, they would need technology that doesn't exist yet. She's like, it's an interesting concept, strictly hypothetical. There is no fucking way. And she's talking about artificial neurons. She's like, once we build artificial neurons, boy howdy, but we don't have those yet. So it's moot. And Langdon is like, well, you might want to come over and look at these petri dishes because I don't think they're growing arugula. Take a look. And Catherine melts the fuck down. She is like, oh, those are artificial neurons. She panics, and her panic has different levels. At first, she's just like, wow, whoa, crazy. And then the dominoes start to fall, and she realizes that, oh, well, this is why they're mad at me. This is why CIA is mad at me, because I was totally going to write this in my book. I talked about artificial neurons and what you could do with it and this idea of a chip. And so I guess I could have like blown up their idea. But then she's like, but it gets worse, Langdon. Poor Robert is just like not understanding a damn word she's saying. She's like, but Langdon, my thesis, apparently 23 years ago, her thesis was on artificial neurons and creating a chip to like deal with non-local consciousness. Like everything they're doing in Threshold, she wrote 23 years ago in her thesis. And it gets worse, Langdon. Oh my God. So apparently her advisor at Princeton really thought that she was going to win like this big science prize for her thesis. And she didn't win it. So her professor, Cosgrove, goes at it with the committee and is like, what the fuck? Why didn't Catherine get it? And apparently there were some shady reasons why she didn't get it. But Catherine doesn't care. Catherine was just having fun writing a thesis about technology that doesn't exist yet. So then to make it even stranger, her advisor is like, you know what? Just for like fun practice, now that you're officially a doctor, scientist out in the big world, I want you to apply for a patent just so you know how it feels, okay? So he made her apply for a patent for that chip that she dreamed up in her thesis. She turns it in, gets rejected. She was like, "Nyeh, I wasn't expecting anything from this," okay? So she got her 14-page patent proposal, each page stamped with denied. And her advisor, weirder still, her advisor is like, can I keep that? Can I keep your patent denial stuff, please? And Catherine's like, yeah, sure, whatever. Like, that's really weird. When he died 10 years ago, whatever, he mailed it back to her. Like her advisor's daughter was like, my father said it was very important that you get this paper back and you keep it. And apparently he's never told any of his other students to apply for a patent. So she's like, this is really fucking weird. So not only did I talk about and dream up and was going to publicly expose this idea that the CIA was working on, but I'm pretty sure the CIA stole my idea, messed with me winning that prize, getting that patent so that they could build it themselves. Always stealing women's work. Anyway, so that's where we are. They just realized that Finch is with them downstairs, so they're running away. They grabbed a bit of evidence and they're basically like, we got to get the fuck out. And then their entrance is blocked by Finch. So now they're just running around while Dimitri is trying to blow the place up unbeknownst to anyone else. Okay? Cool. 80%, my dears, and we found Dana. So one thing that I didn't mention about Ambassador Heidi is that she randomly had a cocktail. Like she called the director and gave her whole like speech. And then she was like, I need a drink. So she's a wee bit tipsy. Keep this in mind. Okay. But she goes to find Dana because she was supposed to come to the ambassador's office and she never came. So she goes to Dana's office. She's packing her shit up. She's like, you fucking killed my boyfriend. I don't want to work for you anymore. Goodbye. And as they're going back and forth, the ambassador is like, girl, I need you to just do one more thing for me. We got to find Sasha because whoever killed Michael killed Sasha and she's like our last person that we want to help, blah, 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 blah. Before they can hatch a plan for finding Sasha, the one Marine, the guy who found the letter, the guy who was helping Dana, his name is Keble. His last name is Keble. He is like, hey ma'am, real sorry, but you're gonna have to come with me. I just got orders to detain you. And she, minutes ago, had given him the only copy of the video because she lied. She was like, I've got multiple copies. I've got copies everywhere. No, she made one copy, put it on a flash drive, put it in a bag, and gave it to Keble to hold on to because she trusts this guy. He's like her personal Marine bodyguard, whatever. So now the man that has like her one playing card basically is arresting her, and he's being really nice about it. But the other two Marines are like, cut the shit. We have to arrest her. Let's go. So they handcuff her and bring her off. However, while they're doing that, Keble goes over to talk to Dana to be like, if you're packing up, you need to like do all this resignation shit, like confidentiality, blah, 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 blah. And he reaches into his pocket and somehow slips the packet with the flash drive and a note into her little box that she is like putting all of her personal items into. The ambassador can't believe what she's seeing. Nobody else seemed to notice. And it turns out we get a quick Keble POV, and he's basically like, the ambassador is the most ethical person I've ever worked with in this government. If she tells me to do something, I'm gonna do it. And this thing seemed really important to her. So in the note, it says like, do not open this, do not lose this, do not question this, like tell no one, thanks, Keble. So that's interesting. But anyway, she's being arrested, she's not being arrested, she's being detained. Oh, I'm sorry, his name is Kerbal. We get a long scene of Finch chasing Langdon and Catherine. I will say this book is very repetitive. I think there are even like paragraphs that have been repeated in this book, but the one that I noticed the most, he really likes saying, then blank, heard the unmistakable sound of a gun being cocked. That's at least 2 times it has said it, and like that's the end of a scene. So yeah, Finch is chasing them with a gun, going everywhere, and every door they go through, they turn back and they're like, ooh, oops, that's locked with the key that they don't have anymore because they don't have the corpse of Brigitte. Okay. So, and Brigitte's phone is dead. So they're just like running deeper and deeper into this maze, and their ending place, they get into this huge room. They've gone like deep, deep, deep into the ground. They get to this huge room with what looks like a much bigger machine of what Brigitte was like killed with. Catherine is looking around trying to figure out what this is, and she says, and this is why I say that this book is so camp, this book is so unserious. She's understanding what this all is. This place was engineered to unveil life's most enigmatic secret, the mind's ultimate altered state, the single most elusive of human experiences. As the weight of the moment settled over her, Catherine reached out and quietly took his hand. Robert, she whispered, they've built a death lab. Yeah, they've made a machine. Okay, let me describe it to you. So, all right, once she comes to this conclusion, minutes later, Finch walks in, and Finch is like, these 2 clowns aren't getting out of this lab alive, so I will happily discuss my work with them. Catherine seems really interested. People don't often listen when I talk. This is so great. All right, essentially what they have built. This is just so funny. Okay, so they built a machine where they will put someone in it, bring them to near death, and that is when people have these out-of-body experiences, right? So they are going to be able to monitor your out-of-body experience. There have been kind of experiments like this before where people have been able to see what you are seeing by like looking at basically where the brain fires up when you are using your eyes, right? And you are able to produce a picture separately, right? So they're trying to do something like that where they can actually see your mind's eye, as they say. So they can like project onto a screen what your brain is seeing, even in your dreams, in your out-of-body experiences, etc. Okay, but here's where it gets bananas. So that I'm like, okay, that's cool, whatever, fine. The CIA has made it so that we have the person who is dead and has their consciousness has now popped out of their body, right? They're having an out-of-body experience. They've got some real still in their body person on the ground called a pilot. And they will be able to help that out-of-body consciousness move around, go anywhere, invisible, and still produce images of what they're seeing. So they could like fly over to Russia, because it's always fucking Russia. They could fly over to Russia and spy, and no one would know they were there because they're like a little consciousness without a body, but they're bringing back. This is so stupid. For all those people making fun of the CIA for their failed Stargate experiment, Finch is like, yeah, we planned that. Stargate didn't fail. We just let them think that. it actually became something amazing, something called the threshold. And it's called threshold because these people are teetering on the threshold between life and death. Catherine literally is like, you're telling me you're navigating an untethered consciousness as if you're flying a drone? And Finch is like, exactly, Dr. Solomon, I knew you'd get it. Yeah, we're flying invisible people drones all over the... So stupid. And meanwhile, Catherine is fascinated by this, okay? Because this is her whole life. And now it has become a reality. Even if it's for crazy things, she's really excited about this. So she keeps asking Finch questions. And Langdon is like, we would like to go. Can we go now? Mommy, I'm tired. I want to go home. You know, like he cannot get Catherine to shut the fuck up. So then he like breaks into the conversation. He's like, by the way, like how many people did you have to kill for this to work? Bud, because what about Sasha? You've tortured her. Where is she? Like, how could you treat a human being like that? And Finch is like, oh, well, you think Sasha's so nice? Why did she kill my spy upstairs? She killed Brigitte. She killed my spy. And we know that the golem did it, but nobody knows about the golem except for us, right? So he assumes it was Sasha, and he feels very confident in this because near his spy, he found that like metal wand that is used for Sasha's epilepsy monitor, right? I found an epilepsy wand upstairs near my officer's dead body, and there's only one person it could belong to. A ghostly voice in the darkness declares, that wand is mine, and I want it back. Wherever Langdon and Solomon have run to is very close to where the golem is trying to blow something up. So he overheard this whole conversation, right? I feel like it's a good thing Langdon pointed out that they're being shitty to Sasha, so maybe the golem will be even nicer to Langdon about this. But the golem is basically like, I really would love to kill Finch right now, but he's got a really big gun, and if he kills me, I can't go back and free Sasha. What are we gonna do? And what are we going to do? He says that whatever he did, they now have like 20 minutes before everything blows up. They have like a superconductor and it needs to be at a certain temperature. There are like all of these different fail safes, and he like basically took away all of those fail safes. And so it's gonna heat up and explode in 20 minutes. And he's like, I gotta get out of here to free my girlfriend, but Finch is the head of the snake. He's numero uno who he wants to kill. Our boy Dimitri is a little torn. And we have 120 pages left. We continue. I have to finish this book today. I have to. Pure camp. I can't believe what I'm reading. Okay. I think the number one thing, my mistake, I said 20 minutes. I meant 20 seconds. So the golem comes out. Finch runs at him. I don't know if he was faking it in order to get Finch to come closer to him, or if he genuinely had a seizure, but the golem is like having a seizure on the ground. Finch gets close and the golem is just like, poof, knocks Finch out. Breaks his nose. He tells Langdon and Solomon to run. You've got 20 seconds, baby, before this thing blows up. He locks Finch in the room and Finch explodes. Langdon and Solomon don't completely get out. They end up running into like a garage of sorts, and they like get in a car, strap themselves in, and then everything explodes. And so they get kind of roughed up, but they survive. And when they finally make their way out, because this was such a huge explosion, the Marines are already on the case, and they're almost arrested when one Marine is like, back off, these guys are with me. It's Kerbal, aka Kebble. Okay. And remember, he's going rogue. He's like, I will explain later, get in my car. And no, I'm not taking you to the ambassador, because they're kind of like the only person we trust right now is the ambassador. Can you take us to her? And he's like, yeah, she is being like court-martialed right now. And I'm pretty sure that you two are next on the director of the CIA's shit list. So I'm going to take you very far away. Where can I take you? He's like, I haven't thought this far. Where do you want to go? I just know where you can't be. And Langdon is like, oh my God, brain blast, because we need to find Sasha, right? He's like, I know where she is this whole damn time. They go back to her apartment. The Marine drops them off. He's like, good luck. I'm going back to work. Catherine and Robert go into Sasha's apartment. And he was like, I was trying to figure out how did like the person with the note and stuff get away so quickly, etc. Like, and then I remembered Sasha, and I don't even remember this, but apparently we know that Gessner, Brigitte, gave Sasha that apartment for free, right? Because it was like her grandma's old place. Apparently her grandma owned 2 floors. So the lower floor was for Sasha, the upper floor was for Dimitri, question mark. When Langdon was in her apartment, he noticed that there was like a boarded up kind of staircase, or not boarded up, but just like blocked with like luggage or like a box or something. There was a staircase. So he's like, I bet she's up there. They go up there. Catherine is very shocked because literally all there is in this room, there's like weird lights, there's a mattress and a ball gag. And she's like, is this like a creepy sex room? And no, they realize this is like the ideal place to have a seizure. Basically, like no pillows for suffocation, no blankets that would get wrapped up, the ball gag to help you not bite your tongue, things like that. But no Sasha to be found. No one, in fact, to be found. But that's when Langdon finds his next clue. And I cannot fucking believe what I'm about to tell you. He finds like a skull cap, like a swimming cap, like a pit bull bald cap, right? And he finds like a fiber or like a long silky white luminescent thing from the skull cap. And he's like, Eureka, Catherine, I'm so dumb. I know where she is. I don't even want to tell this to you guys. Then before we can get any more information from Langdon, and he's like, Catherine, I have proof that non-local consciousness is real. And he's like waving this weird little thing, okay? Cut to the golem, who has survived against all odds. I don't even know how he survived. He like got to a location that didn't blow up, okay? He gets in one of the emergency showers in the lab. Apparently that part didn't blow up. I don't know, guys. He gets in a shower at the lab, washes off all of the clay that he puts on his body every day to become the golem. Oh my God. He then takes off his skull cap and ouch, sometimes his hair gets stuck in the skull cap. Ugh, not again. Puts the skull cap in the sink and continues to wash his face. And what's looking back at him in the mirror is the beautiful face of Sasha. You know how we said like he awoke? It was like using very weird language. Like he became the golem during this like abusive attack by the nurse. And then he like came to life and broke the nurse's neck. God damn it. This is a book about dissociative identity disorder. Motherfucker. Yeah. So Sasha and the golem are one and the same. That's why like he could disappear so quickly is because like the person who put the paper underneath the door, how did he run away so fast? Because he never left the house. It was just Sasha. What the fuck? So that's why they've never been in the same scene. Also, like, why hasn't anyone just checked the CCTV in the lab? We're like, oh, who killed Brigitte? I don't know. I'm sure you have CCTV in the lab. Like, whatever. Oh my God. I just can't believe that's what I just read. And that's why he's like, I have to escape in order to release Sasha. That actually doesn't fucking make sense. I mean, I need to get Sasha to a safe place makes sense, but like you could release her at any time. Like with DID, there is like a dominant identity. He's like, I need to give it back to the Sasha character, or whatever the term is. What are you doing, Dan Brown? I've got 70, 80 pages left, but they need to find Sasha because all of the evidence that they had in the lab blew up. And in order to kind of like help the ambassador and also help themselves, they need Sasha's chip and Sasha to prove that like this crazy abuse and testing was going on. So regardless of if she is the golem or not, we gotta find Sasha, okay? I cannot believe. Langdon is like, holy shit, like I probably wasn't talking to the real Sasha for a lot of the time. So that's weird. Even though she was a lost and gentle soul. All right, I'm still team Sasha. I'm team Gollum. Yeah, take down the CIA. Go for it, dude. Another issue that we have is who's going to take care of the cats, Harry and Sally. Catherine is going to. Don't worry. They haven't been fed for a while. Catherine's taking care of it. And so Dimitri is dead. My bad, guys. The one thing I was really, really sure about. I didn't expect Dan Brown to pull out dissociative identity disorder. Holy shit. Well, yeah, that actually oh my God. And yeah, she killed Brigitte. She killed Michael. The golem was like really pissed when he found out that Michael was like cheating on or like lying to Sasha. So the golem took over and killed him. But like, oh my God, technically Sasha's own hands did it. Yikes. And now apparently the ambassador has been like tentatively released or something, enough that she can make a phone call. So she tells Langdon, like, we can't talk about anything sensitive over the phone. Do you know where Dripstone Wall is? One of Prague's more surreal ancient attractions. Meet me there ASAP. We also get a bizarre chapter, like literally a 2-page chapter, in which, do you remember Lieutenant Pavel, the guy who was like out for Langdon's blood? He like had a whole interrogation with the Uzi and was found that he was acting a fool. And so he isn't officially discharged, but like is sure he's going to be fired within a day or two. So he like goes home, but as he's going home, he like is waiting at the bus stop and he tries to hit on a girl and she like scoots away from him and he's just like, oh, this is why I date AI girls. Yeah, I'm so sad. And he just like really sad and lonely gets on a bus. So there's that. I'm going to finish this right now. God damn it. 70 pages. I'm pissed about this, guys. Okay. The sun has set. I apologize. My fellow Americans and everyone else. I have finished this fucking book. So we have like a very quick check-in with the ambassador who is now like free to walk around. I don't know. She like wasn't detained for very long. So they catch up with each other and basically are told that they're free to go. Langdon and Catherine are free to like return to their hotel and get some sleep. And there is like a hilariously straight man written scene in which Catherine goes to take a shower and she's shaving her legs. And Langdon is like, why are you shaving your legs? And Catherine's like, I think you know why. No, we don't know why. Apparently, women have to shave their legs before they have sex. I didn't. News to me. And Langdon is like, okay, girl, like, yeah, I'll be here. I'll be waiting. And she like gets all ready and comes out of the bathroom and like strikes a pose. And Langdon is dead asleep. 2 quick things happen. First, Kerbal, the Marine, goes to Dana's apartment and is like, hey, can I get that pouch back? And so he grabs that. Okay. He also offers Dana her job back and she is like, respectfully, fuck you. Like, this is the worst day of my life. So leave me alone. Okay. So we have the video back. And then at the embassy, somebody's at the front door requesting to speak to the ambassador. The guard comes out and he's like, yeah, I don't know. She requested to speak to you and said that you would know her. I asked her to write down her name and here it is. And we see like the 2 words written in Russian. And Heidi's like, yeah, I can't read that. And the guard is like, well, I think it sounded like Sasha. Sasha is here and she wants to speak to Michael Harris. Apparently, Michael has always told her, like, if something really, really horrible happens and she can't get in contact with Michael, to go to the embassy. And she can't get in contact with Michael because she killed Michael, so she's here, okay? And the ambassador is like, okay, fuck, what do I do now? And she basically tells Sasha, like, listen, I would love to help you and I think I can help you, but I need you to be petitioning for asylum. Like, can you just say those words to me and then we can like get you to a secure, safe room? But if you're just here to like shoot the shit, we can't have a casual conversation. I need you to petition for asylum. And Sasha is so confused. Like she doesn't remember the last like 48 hours, right? So she's just like, okay, I'm petitioning for asylum. So now we got to go pick up Robert and Catherine again. They had like a couple hours of sleep and then Kerbal again comes and is like, hey, I'm so sorry. We need you back at the embassy to talk. Sasha is there. And the Golem is okay with Sasha talking to the ambassador because when Brigitte was giving her whole confession about like everyone involved in it, she very specifically was like, the US ambassador, Heidi Nagel, doesn't know anything. She's so innocent of this. So the Golem is like, we like Langdon. We like this Heidi lady, even though she's the one who assigned Michael to do this stuff to Sasha. So that doesn't make sense to me, Dan Brown, but whatever. And essentially what they're going to do is just bring Sasha to America, still let her be a part of the Threshold project. And Catherine and Langdon are like, no, they abused her. Like, this is crazy. She never asked to be a part of this, blah, blah, blah. And the ambassador is sort of like, honestly, like with her condition and also with that deeply implanted chip in her head, the best people to take care of her are the scientists within Threshold. She has lived an incredibly sheltered life. She's been abused since she was 10 years old, either by the mental institution or by this scientist, Brigitte. She still has seizures, and the ambassador has a sneaky suspicion that there's a possibility that they could melt the chip or they could do something to the chip remotely to kill her. So it's better to like keep your enemies close kind of thing. I don't know. I don't really buy this. And Langdon is like, okay, but who's gonna stop them from hurting her again? And Heidi is basically like, that will be my job for the rest of my life. I'm going to be in charge of Sasha's well-being. I feel such guilt for Michael Harris that this is the only way I feel like I can even for like a smidge repent. So she is going to be like Sasha's basically adoptive mother, which we see a little bit later when Sasha gets on the airplane and flies to the US. They have like a private flight with no manifest, so she can just kind of like zip into the US without any paperwork needed. And Sasha is exhausted and confused. She says something to the ambassador, and the ambassador hugs her like deeply. And Sasha is like, this is the best, most loving hug I've had since I was 4 years old. So I feel like that's where they're trying to make us feel like, oh, Sasha got adopted by Heidi. I don't really know how I feel about that, but that's where it is. Okay. And the golem is still still very much aware and like in Sasha's POV. In fact, in order to like explain what the plan is to Sasha, the ambassador was like, actually, Robert, you know her the best. Why don't you talk to her? So in the embassy, Robert talked to her, but he was like, may I ask who I am talking to? And the golem is like, yeah, not Sasha. So he explained the plan to the golem. The golem agrees. Sasha gets on the airplane. And even when Sasha is like technically her consciousness is in control, she still can hear the golem like calm her down, you know? And Michael told her that the voice in her head was just her intuition, so she doesn't question it. But yeah, the golem is like, it's okay, like you can trust this lady, or like I wouldn't do that, and blah blah blah. And eventually the golem hopes to fully release Sasha so that she can like be free or whatever. But yeah, that's what we're doing now. So and finally, all right, I really thought this was going to end in a marriage proposal. It doesn't, but damn close. Robert has like one last romantic adventure planned in Prague for Catherine. They like go on a tour, they go walking around, they split up for a moment. He's like, I gotta go get something, like you wait here, whatever. He comes back and then he starts quoting verbatim from her book. And she's like, what are you doing? How do you know those words? And remember when he started that fire in the library? Yeah, he burnt her bibliography, because this is a whole ass book. And he was like, you had 42 pages of references. I think I saved a couple, but yeah, I just burnt your bibliography, babe. I have your whole manuscript right here. So we still have the book. He like hid it in the library while everybody was panicking. I don't know. Anyway, manuscript found. We go back to New York. Jonas is very excited about this. And let me tell you how this book ends. Dan Brown, I will come for your head. We have the manuscript. We are turning it into Jonas. Langdon is like, so do you have a title idea? Any idea what you're going to call it? How about The Secret of Secrets? Because they had this conversation that the biggest secret, the secret of all secrets, is that death isn't something to be feared. And if we all stopped fearing death, wouldn't the world be a better place? How would we live if we'd never feared death? That's the secret of all secrets, man, is death isn't scary. It's just another step. He's like, yeah, the secret of secrets. If you think about it, the question at the core of the book, what happens when we die? It's the mystery of all human minds have pondered. It's truly the secret of secrets. And Catherine, my girl, is like, as a book title, sounding skeptical. I don't know. It sounds like a bestseller, Langdon prompted. I was gonna say over the top. And that's pretty much how the book ends. And she's like, oh my God, Robert Langdon, I love you. I'm sorry it took me so long to realize it. The end. The whole reason I read this book is because I thought this title was so stupid and silly that I wanted to know why. And I literally had to read until the last page to get that answer. And it's a dumb answer. Also, authors like 50% of the time don't even come up with their own titles. What the... My God. So I really enjoyed the first 50% just because it was so goofball and ridiculous and silly. And then it just got way too bogged down with kind of philosophical or scientific discussions. It just got bananas. What are you talking about? Sasha is the golem. And also, I don't know how responsibly he talked about dissociative identity disorder. Like, that's a real thing. I assume he had sensitivity readers. Like, I just wonder, like, I'm not well versed in it at all. I hope I didn't say anything insensitive, but what? Like, what a strange turn. What a strange turn. Anyway, this is a very long video because this was a very long book and I hope everyone's great. I can't believe Michael died. What the hell? Also, we took a lot of time to explain that like governments have to do things that are shady in order to like protect the world sometimes. Dan. He also referenced ChatGPT as well. Krebel used it to search something. Come on, man. Anyway, wow. I like gotta cool down. I've got to stick my head in the freezer or something. I'm hot. There it is, guys. Dan Brown back at it again after 8 years to give us that. I'm speechless is what I am actually. And I'm gonna go to sleep or I'm gonna get ready for bed because my brain is like whirring. I will see you guys next time. Let me know your thoughts. I can't believe I was so confident about Dimitri and the rug was just pulled out right out from under me. What do you think? Did anybody guess dissociative identity disorder? And I will see you guys next time. Let me know what I should read next. I'm thinking of reading, what do you guys think about, what did I have written down? A lot of you recommended I'm Watching You by Teresa Driscoll. It came out in 2017. I had like more than one comment about it, so let me know. But wow. I'll see you guys next time. Thank you as always for being here. Speechless, truly speechless. Bye.